In the shadowed halls of ancient Olympus, where gods weave fates like threads on a loom, a single act of defiance can unravel empires and ignite wars that echo through eternity. Welcome to the timeless saga where divine order clashes with mortal ambition, and the whispers of Themis' justice shape the cosmos itself. Themis, the Titaness of divine order, and justice, imagine yourself wandering through the mist-shrouded peaks of ancient Mount Orthres, where the air hangs heavy with the echoes of primordial creation. Here, in the cradle of the cosmos, the Titaness, Themis first emerged into the world of gods and mortals. Born to the vast sky god Ouranos and the earth mother Gaia, Themis was one of the 12 Titans, those colossal beings who ruled before the Olympians claimed the heavens. You can almost feel the weight of her lineage, a family tree rooted in the very foundations of existence. Siblings like Cronus, who would devour his own children in fear, and Rhea, the nurturing force who outwitted him. Themis, however, stood apart in her quiet authority, embodying not raw power but the subtle threads of divine law and custom that bound the universe together. In those early days, as you picture the Titans gathering in vast halls of stone and ether, Themis served as the voice of order amid chaos. She was the personification of Themis itself, the ancient Greek concept of natural law, fairness, and the unwritten rules that govern both immortals and humans. Unlike her more tempestuous kin, she didn't wield thunderbolts or command the seas. Instead, she advised with a calm wisdom that foreshadowed the structured world to come. Historical accounts from Hesiod's Theogony describe her as seated beside thrones, her presence ensuring that decisions aligned with cosmic balance. You might envision her as a serene figure, draped in flowing robes the color of dawn-lit marble, her eyes reflecting the impartial scales of justice that would later inspire Roman depictions of Justitia. Themis' role extended into the daily rhythms of divine life, where she orchestrated assemblies and oracles with meticulous care. At Delphi, before Apollo claimed it as his own, Themis held sway over the prophetic vapors rising from the earth's fissures. Pilgrims, mortals like you, perhaps a weary farmer or a curious scholar, would ascend the sacred slopes, offering simple gifts of barley or olive branches. She didn't deliver prophecies in dramatic bursts but in measured whispers, guiding querents toward harmonious paths. One lesser-known tale speaks of her counseling Zeus during the Titanomachy, the Great War, that pitted the old gods against the new, as battles raged across the skies, with Cyclopes forging weapons in volcanic forges and hundred-handed giants hurling boulders. Themis remained at the periphery, reminding the combatants of the eternal laws that even victory must respect. Her influence ensured that the overthrow of Cronus wasn't mere anarchy, but a restoration of rightful order. Yet, Themis' significance lay in the mundane details that shaped immortal society. She mothered the Horae Eunomia for good governance, Dike for justice, and Erin for peace, goddesses who oversaw the seasons and the orderly progression of time. Picture them as extensions of her essence, weaving the fabric of daily existence. Eunomia ensuring that festivals occurred on schedule, with libations poured at precise hours. Dike weighing disputes in quiet courts where evidence was presented without fanfare. Erin fostering the tranquil routines of harvest and rest. These daughters mirrored Themis' commitment to balance, influencing everything from the rotation of crops in mortal fields to the predictable cycles of the stars. In family dynamics fraught with hubris, think of Zeus' later infidelities, or Hera's vengeful schemes. Themis provided a counterpoint, advocating for customs that prevented total discord. Her unions, too, reveal the intricate web of divine relationships. As Zeus' second consort after Metis, Themis bore the Moirae, the fates who spun, measured, and cut the threads of life. This marriage wasn't born of passion but of strategic alliance, solidifying Zeus' rule through her oracular gifts. You can sense the understated rituals, quiet ceremonies under starlit skies, vows exchanged not in thunderous odes but in solemn nods to cosmic necessity. Themis' life, then, was one of quiet endurance, her days filled with the administration of prophecies and the mediation of godly quarrels, all while mortals below lived out the consequences of her verdicts. But as the Olympian era dawned, questions lingered about how this Titaness of old would navigate the shifting hierarchies of power. Would her timeless verdicts hold sway amid the rising hubris of younger gods? Or would new ambitions test the very order she championed? Picture yourself standing in the shadow of Mount Olympus, where the air hums with the newfound authority of the Olympian gods. The Titanomachy has ended, the Titans cast into Tartarus and Themis. The Titaness of divine order remains a quiet but pivotal presence in this reshaped cosmos. You might expect her to fade into obscurity, a relic of the old regime, but Themis adapts with a resilience born of a deep understanding of cosmic law. Her role now is not to challenge Zeus' reign but to anchor it, ensuring that the brash, young gods adhere to the customs she has always upheld. As you imagine her moving through the divine courts, her steps deliberate and her voice steady, you see a figure who commands respect, not through force but through the weight of her impartiality. Themis' influence in this new era is most evident in her oracular duties at Delphi. Before Apollo's golden lyre echoed through the sanctuary, Themis presided over the oracle, her pronouncements shaping mortal and divine decisions alike. Historical sources, like Pausanias' description of Greece, note that pilgrims sought her guidance on matters as mundane as marriage disputes or as grand as city-state alliances. You can envision a weary merchant from Corinth, dust clinging to his sandals, kneeling before her shrine to ask whether to risk a sea voyage. Themis' responses, delivered through priestesses who inhaled the sacred vapors, were not cryptic riddles, but practical directives, often urging patience or compromise. Her oracles emphasized balanced plant crops in harmony with the seasons, settle feuds with measured reparations reflecting her belief that order sustained both mortal fields and divine thrones. Yet, her daily work extended beyond prophecy. Themis mediated the squabbles of the Olympians, whose egos often threatened the harmony she cherished. Imagine her in a marble hall, its columns gleaming under torchlight, as she listens to Hera's complaints about Zeus' latest dalliance or Poseidon's territorial disputes with Athena. Her role was less about issuing judgments than fostering agreements that preserved the divine hierarchy. Hesiod's works and Day's hints at her influence, describing how she taught gods and mortals alike to honor contracts and oaths. These weren't grand pronouncements, but the tedious work of ensuring that promises, whether a mortal's vow to repay a debt or a god's pledge to spare a city, were kept. Her presence reminded the Olympians that even their immortality was bound by the unspoken rules of Themis. Her motherhood also shaped this era. The Horae, her daughters, were now active forces in the world, their influence felt in the rhythm of daily life. Eunomia ensured that festivals followed ancient calendars, with villagers gathering at precise times to honor Demeter or Dionysus. Dike, ever watchful, oversaw disputes in Agri, where farmers argued over land boundaries with clay tablets as evidence. Erin brought peace to households, where families shared simple meals of bread and olives under her quiet blessing. Themis herself oversaw their work, her days filled with the minutiae of divine governance, reviewing omens, advising Zeus on mortal petitions, and ensuring that the fates, her other daughters, wove destinies without bias. You might picture her as a cosmic administrator, her ledger not of gold but of actions weighed against the eternal scales of justice. Themis' partnership with Zeus, though formal, was a cornerstone of her influence. Their union, described in the Homeric hymns, was less about love than about aligning her wisdom with his power. She advised him on matters like the division of divine domains, ensuring that Poseidon's seas and Hades' underworld didn't encroach on Zeus' skies. Yet, as the Olympian court grew more fractious, with gods like Apollo and Artemis asserting their own agendas, Themis faced a subtle challenge. Could her commitment to order withstand the ambitions of gods who saw law not as a foundation but as a tool to bend? As you stand at the edge of a starlit grove, the sacred precinct of Delphi is stretching before you. Themis' presence lingers like a faint breeze carrying the weight of ages. The Olympian era is now firmly established, and the Titaness of divine order has woven herself into the fabric of this new world, her influence subtle yet enduring. Her days are spent in the quiet labor of maintaining balance, a task that feels as eternal as the cycles of the moon. Picture her seated in a marble chamber, Surrounded by scrolls etched with oracular pronouncements, her calm gaze assessing the pleas of gods and mortals alike. Themis' role as the arbiter of cosmic law has never been more vital, for the Olympian's hubris threatens to unravel the order she has so carefully preserved. Her final contributions are seen in the intricate web of divine and mortal interactions she oversees. The Homeric hymns and Pindar's odes suggest that Themis' oracles at Delphi guided key moments in EK history, from the founding of colonies to the resolution of blood feuds. Imagine a chieftain from Thebes, his cloak heavy with dust, seeking her counsel on whether to wage war or seek peace. Her response, delivered through a priestess-measured chant, might urge a sacrifice to appease. Ours or a festival to honor Demeter, ensuring harmony over conflict. These pronouncements, rooted in her principle of Themis' natural law and custom-shaped mortal societies, encouraging them to align their lives with the rhythms of the cosmos. Her daughters, the Horae, amplified this work. Eunomia ensured civic festivals ran smoothly, with villagers offering precise measures of grain. Dykes settled disputes over stolen livestock with impartial rulings. Erin fostered moments of communal rest, where families gathered under olive trees to share stories. Themis' mediation among the gods reached its climax as she navigated their growing rivalries. Zeus, Nausicaa in his rule, leaned on her counsel to temper disputes, such as Athena's claim to Athens or Apollo's insistence on controlling Delphi. A lesser-known tale from Apollodorus Bibliotheca describes her resolving a quarrel between Hermes and Apollo over stolen cattle, her verdict, ensuring neither god lost face. Her method was not confrontation but dialogue, coaxing agreements that upheld divine order. Even in her marriage to Zeus, Themis remained a partner of necessity, her oracular insight guiding his decrees. The fates, her daughters, wove destinies under her watchful eye, ensuring that even Zeus' whims bowed to the impartial threads of fate. You can imagine her overseeing their work, her hand steady as she ensured no thread was cut prematurely. Her legacy, though, lies in the enduring principles she embedded in both divine and mortal realms. Themis' insistence on fairness and custom influenced the development of Greek legal systems, where oaths sworn in her name bound agreements in early city-states. Her oracles shaped decisions that rippled through history, from the establishment of sanctuaries to the avoidance of wars. Yet, her story is not one of triumph but of quiet persistence, a reminder that order is maintained through tireless, often unnoticed effort. As Delphi passed to Apollo, Themis stepped back, her role absorbed into the Olympian framework. Yet her principles endured in every oath, every balanced scale, every moment of peace. Reflecting on Themis, you might wonder how her legacy resonates today in a world of shifting laws and competing ambitions. Her commitment to impartiality and custom feels both distant and vital. What happens when societies lose sight of the quiet, boring work of maintaining order, and how do we preserve balance in an age as fractious as hers? The forges of the Cyclopes, crafters of thunderbolts, and divine armor step into the heart of a smoldering volcano, where the air is thick with ash and the ground trembles beneath your feet. This is the domain of the Cyclopes, the one-eyed giants, whose forges shape the weapons of the gods in Greek mythology. Born to Gaia and Ouranos, alongside their Titan siblings, these primordial craftsmen Brontes, Stropes, and Argers were not the brutish shepherds of later tales, but master artisans whose work defined the divine arsenal. Picture their cavernous workshop lit by molten rivers of lava, where sparks fly like stars and the clang of hammers echoes like thunder. Hesiod's Theogony describes them as towering figures, each with a single eye burning with focus, their hands calloused from centuries of shaping metal and stone dot in the early days of the cosmos. When the Titans ruled, the Cyclopes were indispensable. You can imagine them laboring in the depths of Mount Etna, their massive forms hunched over anvils forged from the earth's core. Their craft was not mere blacksmithing, but a sacred act, transforming raw elements into instruments of divine power. They crafted Zeus thunderbolts, each one a blazing shard of celestial fire capable of splitting mountains. These were not simple tools, but meticulously designed, with intricate patterns etched into their surfaces to channel divine energy. The Cyclops' work required precision. Brontes, whose name means thunder, tempered the bolts in volcanic flames, Stopes, lightning, polished them to a blinding sheen, and Arges, bright, infused them with radiant force. Every strike of their hammers was deliberate, every measurement exact, as they ensured the bolts balanced destructive power. With divine intent, their daily lives were a study in endurance. Unlike the gods who lounged on Olympus, the Cyclops toiled in relentless heat, their single eye squinting through smoke to inspect their creations. They didn't work for glory, but for necessity, their forges operating without pause to supply the divine order. Beyond thunderbolts, they crafted Poseidon's trident, its prong shaped to stir the seas, and Hades' helm, a subtle piece that granted invisibility through delicate engravings. Each artifact required days of labor, from mining rare ores deep within the earth to cooling them in subterranean springs. You might picture them hauling massive slabs of bronze, their muscles straining as they debated the exact curvature of a shield or the weight of a spearhead, their voices a low rumble over the roar of the forge. Their role in the Titanomachy, the war between Titans and Olympians, was pivotal yet often overlooked. Imprisoned by their father Ouranos and later by Cronus, out of fear of their strength, the Cyclops were freed by Zeus, who recognized their value. In gratitude, they gifted him the thunderbolts that turned the tide of battle. Imagine the scene, the Cyclops emerging from their chains, presenting Zeus with a weapon that crackled with raw energy, its glow illuminating the battlefield. Their forges burned brighter during the war, producing armor and weapons at a grueling pace. Yet, their loyalty was not to Zeus alone, but to the act of creation itself, their hammers striking in rhythm with the universe's pulse. As the war ended and the Olympians ascended, the Cyclops returned to their forges, their work unchanged despite the new divine order. But what role would these solitary giants play in a world now ruled by gods? Who valued glory over craft? Would their creations continue to shape the heavens? Or would their labors fade into the shadows of Mount Etna's fires? You stand now within the stifling heat of Mount Etna's depths, where the Cyclops Brontes, Stopes, and Arges labor in their eternal forge. The air is heavy with the scent of molten metal, and the walls glow with the faint pulse of lava flows. With the Titanomachy behind them, the Olympians now rule the cosmos. But the Cyclops remain indispensable, their hammers shaping the tools that sustain divine authority. Picture their workshop as a labyrinth of stone and fire, where raw ore is transformed into artifacts of immense power. These one-eyed giants, as described in Hesiod's Theogony, are not mere laborers but artisans of divine necessity, their single eye scanning every detail with unrelenting precision. Their craft, the repetitive and unglamorous, holds the Olympian order together. The Cyclops' daily work is a testament to endurance and skill. Each morning, if time can be measured in their subterranean realm, they gather around their massive anvils, debating the needs of the gods. Zeus might request a new thunderbolt, its core infused with starlight to intimidate rebellious titans still lurking in the shadows. Poseidon, ever tempestuous, demands a trident with prongs sharp enough to split coral reefs. You can imagine Brontes, his hands scarred from centuries of forging, heating bronze until it glows like the sun, while Stopes etches intricate patterns to channel divine energy. Arges, meanwhile, tests each piece, ensuring it withstands the strain of godly power. Their process is methodical. They mine ore from Etna's depths, smelt it in furnaces fed by volcanic heat, and cool it in springs that bubble with mineral-rich water. Every step is deliberate, from measuring the weight of a spear to adjusting the balance of a shield, meant for Athena's deft hands. Their creations extend beyond weapons to the subtle instruments of divine rule, the Homeric hymns. Mention the Cyclops crafting delicate items like the silver bow for Artemis, its curve calibrated to fire arrows with unerring accuracy. They also forge ceremonial armor for lesser deities, ensuring each piece reflects the wearer's domain. Gleaming gold for Apollo, dark iron for Hades. These tasks require not just strength but an understanding of the gods' personalities and purposes. You might picture the Cyclopes pausing to discuss whether Hera's scepter should bear emblems of peacocks or lilies, their low voices echoing as they weigh aesthetic against function. Their workshop is a place of constant activity, yet it's marked by routine, stoking fires, hammering metal, polishing surfaces until they gleam. Unlike the gods who revel in feasts and disputes, the Cyclopes find purpose in the monotony of their craft. Their role in the Olympian era is less about glory than utility, while Zeus sits on his throne, wielding their thunderbolts to enforce his will. The Cyclopes remain in their forge unnoticed yet essential. They are rarely invited to divine councils, their names absent from the songs of bards, yet their work underpins every Olympian victory, from quelling mortal uprisings to subduing monstrous threats. Like Typhus, historical accounts, such as those in Apollodorus' Bibliotheca, suggest they crafted defensive walls for divine strongholds, their stones fitted with such precision that no mortal siege could breach them. But as the gods grow accustomed to their power, relying on the Cyclops' creations, a question looms: will these artisans remain content in their obscurity, or might their indispensable role breed resentment in the fiery depths of Etna? You find yourself once more in the cavernous forge of the Cyclops, deep within Mount Etna, where the air shimmers with heat and the rhythmic clang of hammers fills the darkness. Brontes, Stropes, and Arges, the one-eyed artisans, continue their tireless work, their single eyes glowing with focus as they craft the tools that sustain the Olympian order. The age of the gods is now in full bloom, and their creations, thunderbolts, tridents, and divine armor have become symbols of divine supremacy. Yet the Cyclops remain in the shadows, their lives defined by the relentless routine of their craft. Picture their massive forms bent over glowing anvils, sweat mingling with ash, as they shape the instruments that gods wield in battles and mortals revere in tales. Their story, though lacking the grandeur of Olympian feasts, is one of quiet resilience. Their forge is the unseen backbone of divine rule. The Cyclops' work in this era extends to maintaining the divine arsenal. According to Apollodorus' Bibliotheca, they repair Zeus' thunderbolts after clashes with rebellious giants, each bolt meticulously ray-forged to retain its destructive force. You can imagine Stropes polishing a cracked thunderbolt, his hands steady as he restores its radiant core, while Brontes tests its balance, ensuring it flies true when Zeus hurls it from Olympus. They also craft lesser-known artifacts, a shield for Ars, etched with scenes of war to inspire fear, a helm for Athena, lightweight yet impervious, designed for her strategic battles. Each piece requires days of labor, from sourcing rare metals in Etna's depths to tempering them in fires stoked by Arge's bellows. Their workshop is a study in precision, with tools ranged in orderly rows and cooling springs bubbling nearby. Their waters used to harden molten bronze. The Cyclops' conversations are sparse, focused on technical details, whether a spear's tip needs more weight, or a scepter's gem should refract light to dazzle mortals. Their isolation, however, defines their existence. Unlike the gods who revel in mortal worship, the Cyclops receive no offerings, no temples in their name. Hesiod notes their absence from divine councils, their contributions acknowledged only when a god demands a new weapon. You might picture them pausing to watch a distant festival honoring Hephaestus, their younger kin who later takes up the forge, yet they harbor no resentment. Their loyalty is to their craft, not to glory. They fortify divine strongholds, their stone walls fitted so tightly that no crack betrays their work, ensuring Olympus remains impregnable. Their creations also influence mortal realms into earthly heroes. Like Perseus wield their swords, forged with edges sharp enough to slay monsters like Medusa. The Cyclops' work, though uncelebrated, ripples through history, enabling the deeds that bards immortalized as the Olympian age solidifies. The Cyclops' role becomes a paradox, indispensable yet forgotten. Their forges burn eternally, yet their names fade from mortal tales, overshadowed by the gods they serve. Their story concludes not with a dramatic end, but with a quiet continuation, their hammers striking in rhythm with the cosmos. Reflecting on their legacy, you might consider the unsung laborers of history those whose work, though overlooked, enables grander narratives. in a world that celebrates the wielder of the thunderbolt. What does it mean to honor the hands that forged it, and how do we recognize the quiet craftsmen who shape our own age? Polyphemus Cave. Odysseus' cunning escape from the one-eyed shepherd Imogenius self-crouched in the damp, shadowy depths of a cavern on a rugged island. The air thick with the musky scent of sheep and the faint tang of sea salt. This is the home of Polyphemus, the Cyclopes, a solitary giant whose single-iron brute strength make him a fearsome figure in Homer's Odyssey. Unlike his artisan brothers Brontes, Stropes, and Arges who forged divine weapons, Polyphemus is a shepherd, living a life of pastoral simplicity far removed from the cosmic battles of the gods. Picture his cave, its walls of rough stone cluttered with woven baskets, wheels of cheese, and pens of bleating sheep. His days are spent tending his flock, milking ewes, and crafting crude but sturdy tools, his massive hands deft despite their size. You can almost hear the rhythmic bleating of his herd, a constant backdrop to his isolated existence. Polyphemus, son of Poseidon and the nymph Theusa, embodies a different breed of Cyclops, one tied to the earth rather than the forge. His life is governed by routine. Each morning, he drives his sheep to graze on the island's grassy slopes. They will catching the morning dew. By noon, he returns them to the cave where he churns milk into cheese, his fingers pressing curds into wooden molds with surprising care. The Odyssey describes his cave as a place of abundance, with racks of cheese and pails of milk, a testament to his skill as a herdsman. His meals are simple cheese, milk, and occasionally a roasted lamb eaten alone by a fire that casts flickering shadows across his solitary eye. Unlike the divine courts of Olympus, his world is tactile and immediate, defined by the needs of his flock and the rhythms of the seasons. Enter Odysseus, the wily hero of Ithaca, whose ship lands on this unnamed island during his long journey home from Troy. You can picture him and his men, weary from weeks at sea, their tunics salt-stained, and their faces gaunt, drawn to the cave by the promise of food. They find it unguarded, Polyphemus out with his sheep, and help themselves to his stores, slicing into wheels of cheese with their bronze knives. But Polyphemus returns, his massive frame blocking the cave's entrance, his single eye glinting. In the firelight, Homer tells us he seals the cave with a boulder so heavy no mortal could move it, trapping Odysseus and his crew. His voice, a low rumble, demands to know who these intruders are. Odysseus, ever cunning, introduces himself as nobody, a ploy that hints at the guile he'll need to survive. Polyphemus' response is brutal yet predictable. He scorns the laws of hospitality, sacred to the Greeks, and devours two of Odysseus' men, their bones crunching under his teeth. You might imagine the terror in the cave, the men huddling in the shadows as Polyphemus wipes blood from his beard, his eyes scanning for more prey. His strength is overwhelming, his temper unchecked. Yet his life as a shepherd suggests a simplicity that Odysseus might exploit. The hero observes the Cyclops' routines, his careful tending of the sheep, his methodical milking, searching for a weakness. As Polyphemus settles into his nightly slumber, the fire's embers glowing, Odysseus begins to form a plan. But how could a mortal, even one as clever as Odysseus, outwit a giant whose strength and isolation make him a law unto himself? You are still trapped in the dim, cavernous lair of Polyphemus, the Cyclops, where the air is heavy with the scent of damp wool and the distant crash of waves. Against the island's cliffs, the fire's embers cast flickering shadows across the cave, illuminating the massive boulder that seals you and Odysseus' men inside. Polyphemus, the one-eyed shepherd, looms over his domain, his single eye scanning his flock with a possessive glint. Homer's Odyssey paints him as a creature of raw power and primal instinct, yet his life is one of routine, tending sheep, milking ewes, and stacking cheese wheels with a care that belies his brutality. You can almost feel the tension, as Odysseus, crouched among his trembling crew, watches the giant's every move, his mind racing for a way to turn the Cyclops' habits against him. Each day follows a predictable rhythm. At dawn, Polyphemus rolls the boulder aside, his muscles rippling as he herds his sheep out to graze on the island's slopes. You might picture him whistling softly, a low rumble that calms the flock, his massive hand guiding them through the cave's mouth. By evening, he returns, sealing the entrance and milking the ewes with practiced efficiency, his fingers squeezing milk into clay pails. The Odyssey notes his meticulous care for his animals, arranging them in pens and checking their wool for burrs. This routine, so mundane for a giant who devours men without remorse, becomes the fulcrum of Odysseus' plan. The hero observes the Cyclops' reliance on his flock, noting how he counts each sheep before sleep. His eye lingering on their familiar shapes, Odysseus, ever the strategist, seizes on a tool within reach, a massive olive wood staff left by Polyphemus near the fire. Its tip green and unpolished. You can imagine the crew whispering in the shadows, their hands trembling as they sharpen the staff into a spear under Odysseus' direction. They work in silence, scraping the wood with bronze blades, their movements hidden by the bleating of sheep. Odysseus also plies Polyphemus with wine, a gift from their ship's stores, poured from a goat skin into a crude bowl. The Cyclops, unused to such potent drink, grows talkative, even jovial. As the wine clouds his senses, he asks again for Odysseus' name, and the hero repeats nobody, his voice steady despite the danger. Polyphemus, laughing, promises to eat nobody last, a grim jest that seals his fate. As night falls, Polyphemus slumps into a drunken stupor, his snores echoing like thunder. Odysseus and his men seize their chance, heating the sharpened stake in the fire until its tip glows red. You can picture the tension, the crew's sweaty palms gripping the wood. Odysseus whispered commands, the fear of waking the giant. They drive the stake into Polyphemus' single eye, twisting it with all their strength. The Cyclops roar shakes the cave, his hands clawing at the wound as he cries out for help, shouting that nobody has blinded him. His neighboring Cyclops, hearing the commotion, gather outside but, confused by his words, leave without aiding him. Odysseus' cunning has worked, but the boulder still blocks the exit, and Polyphemus, though blind, is far from defeated. How will the hero and his men escape a giant who, even sightless, guards his flock with obsessive care? You remain in the stifling gloom of Polyphemus' cave, the air thick with the acrid scent of burnt wood and the bleating of restless sheep. The Cyclops, now blinded by Odysseus' fiery stake, thrashes in pain, his roars echoing off the stone walls. His massive hands grope blindly, searching for the men who have outwitted him. Odysseus and his crew huddle among the sheep, their hearts pounding as they cling to their fragile plan. The boulder still seals the cave, and Polyphemus, though sightless, blocks the entrance, his instincts sharpened by rage. Homer's Odyssey captures this moment as a testament to human cunning, over brute strength, but it's the mundane details of the Cyclops' routine that hold the key to escape. Picture the scene, the fire's dying embers, the scattered cheese wheels, and the pens where sheep shift nervously, unaware of the drama unfolding around them. Odysseus, ever observant, has studied Polyphemus' habits. Each morning, the Cyclops opens the cave to let his flock graze, feeling each sheep as it passes to ensure none are stolen. You can imagine Odysseus whispering to his men, their faces streaked with sweat and ash, as he outlines his final gambit. They bind themselves beneath the bellies of the largest rams, using woven willow strips from Polyphemus' own baskets to secure themselves. The wool is coarse, the rams' movements jerky, but the men cling tightly, their bodies pressed against the animals' underbellies. Odysseus chooses the largest ram, Polyphemus' favorite, its thick fleece offering cover. As dawn breaks, Polyphemus, groaning in pain, rolls the boulder aside, his hands running over each sheep as it passes. You can feel the tension, the men holding their breath as the giant's fingers brush the wool above them. Unaware of the human cargo below. The escape is agonizingly slow. The sheep shuffle out, their hooves clattering on the stone floor, while Polyphemus, still bellowing about nobody, remains oblivious. Once outside, Odysseus and his men slip free, racing to their ship anchored on the island's shore. But Odysseus' pride, his fatal flaw, surfaces. As they row away, he taunts Polyphemus, shouting his true name, Odysseus, raider of cities. The Cyclops, enraged, hurls boulders toward the voice. their impact sending waves crashing against the ship. His cries reach his father, Poseidon, invoking a curse that will haunt Odysseus' journey home. The Odyssey notes this moment as a turning point, where cunning gives way to hubris, setting the stage for years of hardship. Polyphemus returns to his cave, his life resuming its solitary rhythm, milking ewes, tending sheep, and living in darkness. His story fades into the backdrop of myth, a cautionary tale of isolation and retribution. Yet, it's the ordinary details, his careful tending of his flock, his reliance on routine that enabled Odysseus' escape. The hero's survival hinged not on strength but on exploiting the Cyclopes' predictable habits, a testament to human ingenuity. Reflecting on this, you might ponder the power of the mundane in shaping history's great moments in our own lives. How often do small, overlooked routines, our daily tasks, our quiet habits become the pivot points for survival or change? The wooden deception, Epeius, and the crafting of the Trojan Horse. Picture yourself on the windswept plains outside Troy, where the Greek army's camp sprawls under a sky heavy with the weight of a decade-long war. The year is roughly 1200 BCE, and the Trojan War, as recounted in Homer's Iliad and later traditions like the Aeneid, has ground to a stalemate. Amid the tents and smouldering campfires, a lesser-known figure toils in the shadows, Epeius, son of Prometheus, a carpenter and boxer whose unassuming skills will shift the course of history. You can see him now, his hands rough from years of wielding tools, his tunic stained with sweat and sawdust, as he labors over scraps of timber under the flickering light of oil lamps. Epeius is no hero like Achilles or cunning strategist like Odysseus. He is a craftsman, his life defined by the quiet precision of woodworking and the grind of daily survival. In a war-weary camp, Epeius' days are filled with the mundane tasks that keep the Greek army functional. He repairs broken chariot wheels, their spokes worn from rocky terrain, and fashions spears from ash wood, ensuring their balance for soldiers' hands. His workshop, a makeshift shelter of canvas and driftwood, is cluttered with tools, bronze adzes, chisels, and mallets, each worn from constant use. The Little Iliad, a lost epic summarized by later scholars, credits Epeius with a practical mind, one that solves problems through craft rather than glory. You might imagine him measuring planks with a knotted cord, his brow furrowed as he calculates angles for a siege ladder or reinforces a ship's hull against the salty Aegean winds. His fellow soldiers, hardened by battle, pay him little heed, their focus on clashing bronze and the towering walls of Troy. Yet, it is in this overlooked role that Epeius' moment arrives. The Greeks, frustrated by Troy's impregnable defenses, turn to a prophecy revealed by the seer Calchas: the city will fall only through deception. Odysseus, ever the schemer, conceives the idea of a great wooden horse, a gift to lull the Trojans into lowering their guard. But it is Epeius, not Odysseus, who is tasked with bringing this vision to life. Guided by Athena, goddess of wisdom and craft, Epeius begins designing the horse in the Greek camp. Hidden from Trojan scouts, you can picture him sketching plans. In the dirt, his fingers tracing the outlines of a massive structure. Its scale unlike anything he has built before. The horse must be large enough to conceal warriors, yet convincing as a votive offering, its surface polished to suggest divine craftsmanship. The work is grueling. Epeius and his small team of carpenters fell pine trees from nearby Mount Ida, dragging the logs across the plains under cover of night. They strip bark with bronze blades, plane planks to uniform thickness, and join them with wooden pegs. As metal is scarce, every detail matters. The horse's legs must appear sturdy, its mane carved to flow naturally, its eyes hollowed to gleam with inlaid amber. Epeius labors with a focus born of necessity, knowing a single flaw could betray the ruse. As the horse takes shape, its silhouette looming over the camp, whispers spread among the Greeks. But will Epeius' craftsmanship withstand the scrutiny of the Trojans? And can a mere carpenter's skill truly end a war that has defied the mightiest heroes? You stand amid the Greek camp outside Troy's towering walls, where the air carries the scent of pine resin and the distant clang of bronze. The Trojan War drags into its 10th year, and Epeius, the unassuming carpenter, is deep in the most ambitious project of his life, the construction of the Trojan Horse. Guided by Athena's divine inspiration and Odysseus' cunning vision, Epeius toils under a makeshift canopy, his hands blistered from shaping timber. The horse, now half-formed, looms over the campus skeletal frame of pine beams, its hollow belly designed to conceal warriors. You can picture Epeius, his eyes squinting, in the torchlight, measuring each plank with a knotted cord, ensuring the structure is both deceptive and sturdy. His work, though rooted in the mundane craft of carpentry, holds the Greeks' last hope to breach Troy's defences. Epeius' days are a blur of relentless labour. He and his small team of carpenters plane wood until their arms ache, smoothing planks to create the illusion of a polished offering. The little Iliad fragments suggest Epeius worked with meticulous care, selecting timber from Mount Ida for its strength and grain. You might imagine him rejecting flawed logs, tapping each with his mallet to test for hidden cracks, his voice low as he instructs his team to align joints precisely. The horse's exterior must mimic a sacred gift, its curves carved to suggest a sculptor's touch, yet its interior requires a reinforced frame to support the weight of hidden men. Epeius embeds a trapdoor in the horse's flank, its hinges concealed with wooden pegs, a detail that demands hours of trial and error. Every stroke of his chisel is deliberate, as a single misstep could betray the ruse to Trojan eyes. Beyond craftsmanship, Epeius navigates the pressures of the Greek camp. Soldiers, weary from years of siege, mock the project, calling it a fool's errand compared to direct assault. You can see them passing by, their armor dented, scoffing as Epeius sands a plank or tests the trapdoor's weight. Odysseus, however, watches closely, his sharp gaze ensuring the work aligns with his strategy. Athena's presence, though unseen, is felt in Epeius' steady hands. As if the goddess guides each cut, the carpenter also contends with scarce resources metal. Nails are reserved for weapons, forcing him to rely on wooden dowels and rope lashings. He improvises, soaking ropes in seawater to tighten them as they dry, a technique born of years repairing ships. The horse's mane, crafted from hemp fibers, is dyed to resemble flowing hair, while its eyes, inlaid with polished shells, gleam under moonlight to suggest divine craftsmanship. As the horse nears completion, its scale becomes a marvel, tall enough to dominate the camp. Yet mobile on hidden wheels, Epeius crafts from oak. The Greeks begin to see it not as a carpenter's whim, but as a potential key to victory. Epeius, though, remains focused on the details, checking joints, smoothing surfaces, ensuring the trapdoor opens silently. The plan hinges on Trojan acceptance of the horse as a gift, requiring the Greeks to abandon their camp and feign retreat, leaving the horse behind. But will Epeius' craftsmanship convince the wary Trojans? And can a structure born of his humble tools withstand the weight of history's greatest deception? You stand on the desolate plains before Troy's walls, where the Trojan horse, Epeius' masterpiece, now looms complete under a starlit sky. Its polished pine surface gleams, the carved mane flowing as if caught in a breeze, its shell inlaid, eyes glinting with an eerie realism. The Greek camp lies abandoned, the tents struck and ships dragged to the shore, a ruse to convince the Trojans of their retreat. Epeius, the humble carpenter, watches from a hidden vantage point, his hands still raw from weeks of labor. The Aeneid and fragments of the little Iliad describe this moment as the culmination of his craft, a wooden deception that could end a decade-long war. You can feel the weight of anticipation, the silence broken only by the distant lap of waves, and the creak of the horse's hidden wheels. The Trojans, weary but jubilant, emerge from their city to inspect the strange offering. Epeius' craftsmanship faces its ultimate test. Every joint, every polished plank must withstand their scrutiny. You might picture Trojan priests, their robes fluttering, circling the horse, tapping its flanks for signs of treachery. The trapdoor, concealed beneath a carved panel, remains undetected, its wooden pegs blending seamlessly with the grain. Laocoon, a Trojan priest, warns against the gift, but Athena, ever the Greeks' patron, sends serpents to silence him, a divine endorsement of Epeius' work. The Trojans, interpreting this as a sign, decide to drag the horse into their city as a victory trophy, unaware of the warrior's Odysseus. Men allows and others cramped within its hollow belly. Epeius' design holds firm as ropes strain, and the horse lurches forward, its wheels grinding over the uneven ground. That night, as Troy celebrates, the Greeks execute their plan. Under cover of darkness, Sinon, a Greek left behind to deceive the Trojans, signals the hidden warriors. You can imagine the tension inside the horse. The men sweating in their armor, listening for the sound of Trojan revelry. The trapdoor, Epeius. Final touch, opens silently, its hinges greased with olive oil he applied himself. The warriors descend, their footsteps muffled, and open Troy's gates to the returning Greek army. The city falls in a night of fire and chaos, its walls breached not by force but by the carpenter's subtle art. Epeius, lightly watching from the Greek ships, sees the distant glow of Troy's destruction, his role in the victory unspoken but undeniable. Epeius fades from the annals of myth after this triumph. The Odyssey mentions him briefly, a carpenter who returned to obscurity, his name eclipsed by heroes like Odysseus, yet his horse, a product of mundane skill measuring timber, carving joints, balancing form and function, changed history. The Trojan War's end reshaped the Aegean world, scattering survivors like Aeneas to found new legacies. Epeius' story, though, is a testament to the power of the overlooked. His craft acquired force that toppled a city. Reflecting on this, you might wonder about the unsung laborers in our own time: engineers, builders, planners whose work shapes pivotal moments. How do their unnoticed efforts, like Epeius' careful chiseling, underpin the grand narratives we celebrate? And what does it mean to honor the hands that craft history's turning points? Arachne's web, a mortal's prideful challenge to Athena mage in yourself. In a sunlit village in ancient Lydia, around 700 BCE, where the hum of looms fills the air and the scent of dyed wool drifts through narrow streets. Here, in a modest workshop, Arachne, a young weaver, bends over her loom, her fingers deftly threading a shuttle through taut warp threads. Unlike the gods or heroes who dominate Greek myths, Arachne is a mortal, her life rooted in the ordinary rhythms of her craft. Ovid's Metamorphoses describes her as a woman of humble birth, daughter of Idmon, a dyer of purple cloth, yet her skill at weaving surpasses all in her village. You can picture her workspace, a small room with clay walls, shelves stacked with skeins of wool, and a wooden loom strung with linen threads, its frame worn smooth from years of use. Arachne's days are consumed by the meticulous art of weaving. Each morning, she rises before dawn to sort wool, her hands sorting fibers by texture and color: crimson from madder root, indigo from woad, saffron yellow from crocus stamens. She spins these into thread, twisting the fibers with a drop spindle until they're fine enough for intricate patterns. Her loom, a simple but sturdy contraption, is her canvas, where she weaves tapestries that depict pastoral scenes, shepherds guiding flocks, olive groves under twilight, waves crashing on rocky shores. Villagers marvel at her work, their whispers spreading beyond Lydia, calling her tapestries divine. You might imagine her pausing to inspect a finished piece, her eyes tracing every thread to ensure no flaw mars the design. Her pride growing with each flawless weave. This pride, however, sows the seeds of her downfall. Arachne's skill attracts attention, and locals begin to claim her work rivals that of Athena, goddess of wisdom and crafts. You can see her in the marketplace, her dark hair tied back, deflecting praise with a bold claim. Her talent owes nothing to the gods. Ovid recounts how she boasts that Athena herself could not outdo her. This hubris, a mortal sin in Greek culture, draws divine scrutiny. Athena, ever watchful, hears of the weaver's challenge. Disguised as an old woman, she visits Arachne's workshop, her grey cloak blending with the village dust. Picture the scene: Arachne, absorbed in her loom, barely glances up as the disguised goddess warns her to respect the gods. Arachne, unyielding, retorts that she fears no one, not even Athena, and invites a contest to prove her superiority. The challenge is set, and the village buzzes with anticipation. Arachne prepares her loom, Selecting her finest threads will dyed in hues that shimmer like the sea or burn like fire. She works with a focus that borders on obsession, her shuttle flying as she plans a tapestry to outshine the goddess. Athena, shedding her disguise, accepts the contest, her divine presence filling the workshop with an unspoken weight. You can feel the tension to weavers, mortal and immortal, poised to create masterpieces that will decide Arachne's fate. The looms are strung, the threads are lined, and the contest begins under the watchful eyes of villagers. But can a mortal's skill, no matter how extraordinary, truly surpass the craft of a goddess? And what price will Arachne pay for her defiance? You stand in the heart of Arachne's modest workshop in Lydia, where the air hums with the rhythmic clack of looms and the faint scent of dyed wool. The contest between Arachne, the mortal weaver, and Athena, goddess of wisdom and crafts, is underway, and the village holds its breath. Two looms face each other across the clay-floored room, one worked by Arachne's calloused hands, the other by Athena's divine fingers. Ovid's Metamorphoses captures the scene as a clash of skill and hubris. Yet it's the meticulous details of their craft that draw you in. Picture Arachne, her brow furrowed, her shuttle darting through warp threads with a precision honed over years. Her tapestry begins to take shape, a vibrant tableau that challenges the gods themselves, while Athena weaves with an effortless grace, her work radiant with divine perfection. Arachne's days leading to this moment were consumed by preparation. She spent hours spinning wool into threads fine enough to rival spider silk, dyeing them in vats of madder and indigo under her father Idmon's guidance. You can imagine her testing each thread, pulling it taut to check its strength, rejecting any that frayed. Her loom, a sturdy frame of oak, is strung with linen warp threads, each aligned with exacting care. Her design is bold, a tapestry depicting the gods' misdeeds, Zeus' transformations to seduce mortals, Poseidon's vengeful floods, Apollo's cruel punishments. Every figure is woven with lifelike detail, from the glint of Zeus' eagle eyes to the froth of waves in Poseidon's seas. Villagers peer through the workshop's open door, marveling at her audacity, their whispers tinged with fear. Arachne's hands move with defiant confidence, each thread a statement of her belief that her mortal skill surpasses divine craft. Athena, in contrast, weaves a tapestry of divine glory. Her work, as Ovid describes, portrays the gods in their majesty, Zeus enthroned on Olympus, Athena gifting the olive tree to Athens, Poseidon calming the seas. The edges are bordered with olive branches, a nod to her victory over Poseidon, each leaf woven with threads that shimmer like silver. You might picture her working with an unnatural calm, her fingers never faltering, her shuttle gliding as if guided by the fates themselves. The villagers are struck. Compare the two. Arachne's tapestry is vivid, almost rebellious, its colors bold and its scenes provocative. Athena's is flawless, its composition harmonious, every thread a testament to divine order. Yet Arachne's work holds its own, its details so precise that a woven tear on a mortal's face seems to glisten. The contest stretches into hours, then days, as the weavers labor in silence, their looms the only sound. Arachne's focus never wavers, her pride driving her to perfect every stitch, even as fatigue sets in. She ignores the ache in her shoulders, the sting in her eyes, determined to prove her boast. Athena, immortal and untiring, watches her opponent with a gaze that betrays no emotion. The villagers, torn between admiration and dread, sense the weight of divine judgment looming. As the tapestries near completion, the question hangs heavy. Will Arachne's audacious skill earn her victory? Or has her hubris already sealed her fate in the eyes of an unforgiving goddess? You linger in Arachne's workshop in ancient Lydia, where the air is tense with the final moments of the weaving contest between the mortal Arachne and Athena, goddess of wisdom and crafts. The looms stand silent now, their tapestries complete, hanging side by side like rival banners. Arachne's work, vibrant and defiant, depicts the god's flaws, Zeus as a swan, Europa's terror. Leaders betrayal, each scene woven with such precision that the figures seem to breathe. Athena's tapestry, radiant and orderly, glorifies divine rule, its olive branch borders gleaming like moonlight. Ovid's Metamorphoses describes the villagers, or as they compare the two. Their whispers hushed by the weight of what's at stake. You can picture Arachne, her hands trembling from exhaustion, standing proud before her creation. While Athena surveys the mortal's work with an unreadable gaze, the judgment is swift and merciless. Arachne's tapestry, though flawless in technique, is deemed an insult to the gods. Her scenes of divine misdeeds, from Apollo's pursuit of Daphne to Poseidon's wrathful floods, are too accurate, too bold. Even Athena, whose own weaving is perfection, cannot deny the mortal's skill. Her threads are as fine, her patterns as intricate. Yet, it's Arachne's hubris, her refusal to bow to divine authority, that seals her fate. You might imagine the goddess's eyes narrowing, her voice calm but laced with divine fury. As she declares Arachne's work an affront, the villagers gasp, stepping back as Athena tears Arachne's tapestry to shreds, the threads scattering like autumn leaves. Arachne, unyielding, stands her ground, her pride unbroken even as the goddess raises her shuttle to strike. In a flash of divine retribution, Athena transforms Arachne. You can see the moment, Arachne's body shrinking, her arms splitting into spindly legs, her form twisting into that of a spider. Her skill remains, but now she weaves only webs condemned to hang from threads for eternity. Ovid notes that her descendants, the spiders, continue her craft, spinning delicate webs across trees and stones. The villagers, horrified, scatter. From the workshop, leaving the looms empty, the air heavy with the lesson of hubris. Arachne's fate becomes a cautionary tale whispered in Lydia's markets and beyond, a warning to mortals who dare challenge the gods. Her workshop, once alive with the hum of her loom, falls silent, its shelves of dyed wool left to gather dust. Arachne's story, though tragic, reveals the power of human skill and the peril of pride. Her webs, delicate yet enduring, mirror her mortal tapestries, each a testament to a craft honed through years of quiet labor. The Greek world, shaped by such myths, valued humility alongside excellence, a balance Arachne defied. Her transformation influenced how Greeks viewed ambition, embedding the idea that even the greatest talent must respect divine order. Reflecting on this, you might consider the fine line between confidence and arrogance in our own lives. Arachne's webs still glisten in morning dew, a reminder of her skill and her downfall. How do we honor our own talents without crossing into hubris? And what does her fate teach us about the delicate threads that connect human achievement to the forces beyond our control? Icarus wings, Daedalus invention, and the fall of ambition. You find yourself in a cluttered workshop on the island of Crete around 1200 BCE, where the air smells of sawdust and beeswax. This is the domain of Daedalus, a master craftsman, whose ingenuity defines the myths of ancient Greece. Unlike the warriors or kings of the Iliad, Daedalus is a man of tools and ideas, his hands stained with pitch and his mind brimming with designs. Ovid's Metamorphoses and Apollodorus' Bibliotheca portray him as Athens' greatest inventor, exiled to Crete after a dark act pushing his nephew Talos off a cliff. Jealous of the boy's rival talent, now, under King Minos' patronage, he toils in a labyrinthine palace, his workshop filled with bronze tools, clay models, and sketches scratched into wax tablets. Picture him hunched over a workbench, his graying hair tied back as he carves a wooden beam with a precision that borders on obsession. Daedalus' days are consumed by the demands of Crete's royal court. He designs intricate mosaics for Minos' palace, their patterns of shells and colored stones depicting waves and bulls. He crafts mechanical toys for the king's children, wooden dancers that spin on hidden gears, delighting Princess Ariadne. His most famous creation, the labyrinth, houses the monstrous Minotaur. Its winding corridors a marvel of engineering. You can imagine him pacing its stone paths, checking angles with a knotted cord, ensuring no prisoner could escape its maze. His work is meticulous, each measurement exact, yet his life is one of captivity. Minos, fearing Daedalus' knowledge, confines him and his young son, Icarus, to the island. Their freedom traded for the craftsman's skill. The workshop, though a haven of creation, feels like a cage, its windows framing the sea that separates them from home. Icarus, barely a teenager, is Daedalus' shadow, sweeping sawdust and fetching tools. You might see him, his eyes bright with curiosity, watching his father melt wax or shape wood. Learning the craft but restless in Crete's confines, Daedalus, driven by a longing for freedom, begins to devise an escape. His gaze turns to the sky where gulls soar over the Aegean. Inspired, he collects feathers from the shore, their quills still damp with salt, and begins designing wings. Picture him sorting feathers by size, binding them with linen thread, and melting beeswax in a clay pot to form a lightweight frame. The idea is audacious, wings to fly like birds, defying the sea that Minos controls. Each night, he works in secret, his oil lamp casting shadows as he tests the wings' balance, adjusting their curve to catch the wind. The process is slow, requiring patience and precision. Daedalus stitches feathers into rows, overlapping them like roof tiles, and reinforces the frame with reeds. He tests prototypes, tossing them into the breeze, noting how they glide or falter. Icarus, eager but naive, helps gather materials, his hands sticky with wax. The wings take shape, their feathers gleaming under torchlight, a fragile promise of freedom. But as Daedalus prepares to defy the gods' domain, the sky questions linger. Can a mortal's craft truly mimic the flight of birds? And what risks await a man and boy who dare to soar beyond human limits? You remain in Daedalus' workshop on Crete, where the air is thick with the scent of melted wax and sea salt drifting. Through the open window, the master craftsman, exiled and imprisoned by King Minos, pours his genius into a daring escape, wings to carry him and his son, Icarus, across the Aegean. The workshop, cluttered with tools and feather-strewn benches, hums with quiet intensity as Daedalus refines his creation. Ovid's Metamorphoses describes the wings as marvels of craft, their feathers meticulously arranged to mimic a bird's. You can picture Daedalus, his eyes narrowed in concentration, binding quills with linen thread, his hands steady despite the weight of their impending flight. Icarus, restless and eager, watches his father, his youthful energy barely contained as he sweeps stray feathers from the clay floor. Daedalus' work is a study in precision. Each wing is a lattice of reeds, light yet strong, layered with feathers, collected from Crete's shore's gull, tern and egret, sorted by size and curve. He melts beeswax in a small bronze pot, stirring it over a low fire until it's pliable, then brushes it onto the frame to secure the feathers. You might imagine him testing the wings' balance, holding them against the breeze to ensure they catch the air evenly. Every detail matters. The wax must hold firm but not brittle. The feathers must overlap like shingles to channel the wind. He stitches linen strips to bind the wings to their arms, adjusting the fit to account for Icarus' smaller frame. His tools, bronze knives, awls, and a knotted cord for measuring are worn from years of use, each movement reflecting a lifetime of solving problems through craft. The process is slow, fraught with trial and error. Daedalus launches small models from the workshop's cliffside window, watching them glide or tumble into the waves below. He adjusts the wingspan, trims excess reeds, and reinforces weak points with extra wax. Icarus, tasked with fetching materials, scours the beaches for feathers, his tunic damp with spray. You can see him, his face alight with excitement, testing a wing by flapping it, only to be scolded by Daedalus for carelessness. The craftsman's warnings are stern. Fly neither too high, where the sun's heat might melt the wax, nor too low, where the sea spray could weigh them down. These instructions, repeated daily, are as much a part of the wing's creation as the materials themselves, a blend of engineering and caution born of Daedalus' foresight. As the wings near completion, the workshop feels both a prison and a crucible. Minos' guards patrol the palace, their footsteps echoing, unaware of the escape taking shape. The wings, now gleaming with rows of feathers, are tested in secret, Daedalus flapping them gently to feel their lift. Icarus mimics him, his movements clumsy but eager, dreaming of the sky. The plan is set. They will launch from a cliff at dawn, when the winds are steady, aiming for Sicily or mainland Greece. But as Daedalus binds the final feathers, a shadow of doubt lingers. Can his craftsmanship defy the gods' domain, and will Icarus, with his youthful impulsiveness, Heed the warnings that could mean the difference between freedom and disaster. You stand on a windswept cliff on Crete's rugged coast, the Aegean. Sea stretching endlessly before you, its waves glinting under the dawn's first light. Daedalus and his son Icarus prepare for their escape. Their wings feather and wax marvels of craftsmanship strapped to their arms. The air is cool, carrying. The scent of salt and pine as Daedalus adjusts Icarus' wings, his hands checking each linen strap and wax-sealed feather. Ovid's Metamorphoses captures this moment as a blend of hope and hubris. A father's ingenuity pitted against the limits of mortal ambition. You can picture Daedalus, his face lined with worry, repeating his warnings. Fly a middle path, neither to high where the sun melts the wax, nor to low where the sea spray weighs them down. Icarus, eyes bright with excitement, nods but fidgets, eager to soar. They leap from the cliff, and for a moment the impossible becomes real. The wings catch the wind, lifting them above the waves. You might imagine Daedalus gliding steadily, his arms moving in practiced rhythm, his gaze fixed on the horizon. Icarus, less disciplined, flaps wildly, his laughter echoing as he tests the wings' limits. The feathers hold, their waxed frames flexing with each gust, a testament to Daedalus' meticulous craft. Fishermen below, hauling nets, pause to stare. Mistaking the pair for gods, the craftsman's plan works Minos' ships guarding Crete's. Shores are powerless against the sky. For a fleeting moment, Daedalus' genius triumphs, his wings defying the imprisonment that bound them. But Icarus, caught in the thrill of flight, ignores his father's cautions. You can see him climbing higher, the sun's heat intensifying as he ascends. The wax softens, beads of it dripping like tears, loosening the feathers. Daedalus shouts, his voice lost in the wind as Icarus soars toward the heavens, his ambition outpacing his father's warnings. The wings falter, feathers scattering like leaves, and Icarus plummets, his cries swallowed by the sea. The waters that bear his name the Icarian sea claim him, his body lost to the depths. Daedalus, landing alone on a distant shore, perhaps Sicily, collapses in grief, his hands clutching the remaining wings. Their feathers still intact but useless without his son. Daedalus' story fades after this tragedy. He continues his craft, later building a temple to Apollo, but the loss of Icarus haunts him. His wings, a pinnacle of human ingenuity, became a cautionary tale, etched into Greek culture as a warning against hubris. The myth shaped how Greeks viewed innovation, celebrating it but fearing its overreach. Daedalus' meticulous work, from sorting feathers to balancing frames, made flight possible. Yet it was undone by a failure to temper ambition with restraint. Reflecting on this, you might consider the delicate balance in our own pursuits. In an age of relentless innovation, rockets, AI, skyscrapers, how do we heed Daedalus' warning to fly the middle path? What does Icarus' fall teach us about the line between aspiration and recklessness? And how do we honor the quiet craftsmanship that, like Daedalus' wings, lifts us toward greatness but risks our downfall? Niobe's Lament, the queen's boast, and the wrath of Leto find yourself in the bustling city of Thebes around 1200 BCE, where the air carries the scent of olive oil and incense from altars dedicated to the gods. In the heart of the palace stands Niobe, queen of Thebes, daughter of Tantalus and wife of King Amphion. Her life is one of opulence and pride, her days filled with the duties of royalty and motherhood. Ovid's Metamorphoses paints her as a woman of immense privilege, mother to 14 children, 7 sons and 7 daughters whose beauty and number are the envy of Thebes. Picture her in a grand hall, her robes dyed Tyrian purple, her hair adorned with gold pins, as she oversees servants weaving tapestries or preparing feasts of barley bread and roasted lamb. Her children, clad in fine linen, play in the courtyard, their laughter echoing off marble columns. Niobe's daily routine is a blend of regal responsibility and maternal care. She inspects the palace stores, ensuring amphorae are filled with wine and grain, and directs offerings to the gods' libations of milk poured at Apollo's shrine, garlands laid for Artemis. Her pride in her children is boundless. You can imagine her watching her sons practice archery, their arrows striking targets with precision, or her daughters spinning wool, their fingers nimble as they mimic her grace. Thebes thrives under her. and Amphion's rule. Its walls said to have been built by Amphion's lyre standing as a testament to their divine favor. Yet, Niobe's heart swells with a dangerous conviction. Her fertility and lineage surpass even the gods. Her father Tantalus, though cursed, was once a friend of Zeus, and she believes her abundance places her above divine peers. This pride leads to her fateful boast. During a festival honoring Leto, mother of Apollo, and Artemis, Theban women gather to offer sacrifices, wreaths of laurel, and prayers for fertility. Niobe, standing tall in the temple courtyard, interrupts the rites. You might picture her. Her voice sharp, declaring that she, with 14 children, is more worthy of worship than Leto, who bore only 2. The crowd gasps, their offerings paused as Niobe lists her blessings, her royal blood, her husband's divine music, her children's perfection. Why honor Leto, she asks, when Niobe's own womb has proven so fruitful? Her words, bold and blasphemous, ripple through the crowd, reaching the ears of the gods. Leto, on distant Olympus, hears the insult, her calm demeanor masking a mother's protective fury. The festival continues, but a shadow falls over Thebes. Niobe returns to her palace, unaware of the divine wrath she has provoked. Her children resume their games, her sons wrestling in the dust, her daughters weaving under her watchful eye. The city's daily rhythm merchants haggling, priests chanting carries on, but an unease lingers. Niobe's boast, born of a mother's pride, has challenged the gods' honor, a transgression rarely forgiven in Greek myth. As she watches her children, confident in her superiority, the question looms, how will Leto, a goddess scorned, respond to a mortal who dares to claim divine reverence? And what price will Niobe's hubris exact on her abundant family? You stand in the opulent halls of Thebes' palace, where the air is fragrant with myrrh and the soft clink of gold jewelry echoes. Niobe, queen of Thebes, moves through her daily duties with regal assurance, her pride in her 14 children, undimmed by the blasphemy she uttered at Leto's festival. Her boast that her abundant offspring make her superior to Leto, mother of Apollo, and Artemis still lingers in the city's air, whispered by nervous citizens. Ovid's Metamorphoses describes the growing tension as the gods take note, their divine council stirred by Niobe's hubris. Picture Niobe, her robes shimmering with purple dye, overseeing her household. Servants polish marble floors, scribes tally grain stores, and her children train in archery or weave fine linen under her watchful eye. Niobe's routine is one of meticulous control. Each morning she inspects the palace kitchens, ensuring platters of figs, olives, and roasted quail are prepared for feasts. She directs offerings to the gods, though her heart scorns Leto's modest altars, favoring her own grandeur. You can imagine her pausing in the courtyard, her gaze softening as she watches her sons practice spear throwing, their movements precise, or her daughters embroidering tunics, their needles glinting in the sunlight. Her pride is tangible, each child a jewel in her crown, proof of her superiority. Thebes buzzes with her confidence, merchants in the Agora speak of her divine lineage. Her father Tantalus once a guest of Zeus, and her husband Amphion's lyre built walls, yet the city feels the weight of her words, an unease settling like dust after her public challenge to Leto. On Olympus, Leto's wrath simmers. You might picture her, serene yet unyielding, standing before her twin children, Apollo and Artemis, their golden bows gleaming. She recounts Niobe's insult, her voice steady but laced with a mother's indignation. Apollo, god of prophecy and archery, and Artemis, huntress of the wild, listen intently. Their divine senses attuned to the slight against their mother, they resolve to act, their plan unspoken but swift. Back in Thebes, Niobe remains oblivious, her days filled with the rhythms of royalty, overseeing festivals, approving trade agreements, and ensuring her children's education in rhetoric and music. Her confidence blinds her to the divine retribution gathering like a storm. The first signs of vengeance come subtly. A chill wind sweeps through Thebes, unseasonable for the warm season, and birds fall silent in the olive groves. Niobe's sons, practicing archery in the palace fields, laugh and jest, unaware of the shadows lengthening around them. her daughters weaving in the women's quarters. Pause to adjust their looms, their fingers steady, but their chatter quieter than usual. The city continues its daily grind. Potters shape clay. Shepherds drive flocks, but a sense of foreboding grows. Niobe, standing on her balcony, surveys her kingdom, her heart swelling with pride at her children's vitality, yet as Apollo and Artemis descend from Olympus, their bows strung and their eyes fixed on Thebes. The question hangs heavy. How will Niobe's hubris, so boldly proclaimed, withstand the wrath of gods who guard their mother's honor with deadly precision? You stand in the heart of Thebes, where the once vibrant palace now feels stifled by an unnatural silence. The air, once rich with the scent of incense and roasted meat, carries a chill that unsettles the city. Niobe, queen of Thebes, remains. Proud, her 14 children, 7 sons and 7 daughters, still the center of her world. But her boast, claiming superiority over Leto for her abundant offspring, has provoked divine retribution. Ovid's Metamorphoses recounts the swift and merciless response of Leto's twins, Apollo and Artemis, as they descend to punish the mortal who dared to challenge their mother's honor. Picture the palace courtyard where Niobe's children play, unaware of the divine arrows poised to strike, their laughter soon to be replaced by cries of despair. The punishment begins with devastating precision. Apollo, god of archery, takes aim from a hill overlooking Thebes. You can imagine his golden bow gleaming as he looses arrows, each striking one of Niobe's sons as they practice in the fields. One falls mid-throw, his spear clattering. Another collapses while wrestling, his breath cut short. The 7 sons, vibrant and skilled, are slain in moments, their bodies strewn across the dust. Thebes' citizens, tending their daily tasks, baking bread. Herding goats freeze in horror as the news spreads. Niobe, hearing the cries, rushes to the scene, her robes trailing as she falls to her knees, clutching her sons' lifeless forms. Her pride, once unshakable, cracks, but she refuses to yield, defiantly proclaiming her 7 daughters still outnumber Leto's to children. Artemis, huntress of the wild, answers this defiance. From the shadows of the palace her silver bow sings, and Niobe's daughters fall one by one. You might picture them, their looms abandoned, struck as they weave or pray, their bodies crumpling onto the stone floors. The youngest, clinging to Niobe, pleads for mercy, but Artemis' arrow finds her too. Niobe, surrounded by her 14 dead children, collapses, her wails echoing through Thebes. The gods' wrath is complete, their honor restored through merciless justice. The city, once alive with commerce and song, falls silent, its people retreating to their homes, offering hurried sacrifices to appease Apollo and Artemis. Niobe, broken, weeps until her body transforms, as Ovid describes, into a stone that weeps eternally. A rock formation on Mount Cyclopes said to drip with tears. Niobe's fate became a cautionary tale in Greek culture, a warning against hubris and the dangers of challenging divine order. Her children, once the pride of Thebes, were erased, their potential archers, weavers, rulers lost to a mother's pride. The myth-shaped Greek values, emphasizing humility before the gods, a lesson echoed in temples and taught to children. Reflecting on Niobe's lament, you might consider the cost of unchecked pride in our own lives. Her story, rooted in the ordinary joys of family, ended in tragedy because she forgot the limits of mortality. In a world where we celebrate abundance, wealth, achievements, legacies, how do we balance pride with humility? And what lessons does Niobe's weeping stone offer about the fragility of human triumph in the face of powers beyond our control? Zeus' siblings, the overthrow of Cronus, and familial bonsai stand on the mist-shrouded slopes of Mount Orthres around 1300 BCE. In the primordial world of Greek mythology, where Titans rule the cosmos, here the air is heavy with the weight of divine power, and the family of Zeus, the future king of the gods, is bound by both love and betrayal. Hesiod's Theogony introduces Zeus' siblings Hestia, Hera, Demeter, Poseidon, and Hades, born to the Titans Cronus and Rhea. These Olympians-to-be, however, are not yet free. Their father Cronus, fearing a prophecy that he would be overthrown by his child, swallows each at birth, imprisoning them in his belly. Picture Rhea, their mother, her heart heavy with grief, tending to her duties as a Titaness while hiding, her growing resolve to save her youngest, Zeus. Her days are filled with the quiet labor of nurturing the cosmos, ensuring stars align and seasons turn, all while plotting against her husband. Rhea's life is one of subtle defiance. You can imagine her in a vast hall of stone and starlight, her robes shimmering like moonlight. As she oversees the Titan court, she pours libations of nectar for Cronus, her hands steady despite her inner turmoil, and ranges offerings of barley and olive oil to maintain cosmic order. Her siblings, the other Titans, loom large Oceanus with his flowing beard, Themis with her scales of justice, but none suspect her plans. When pregnant with Zeus, Rhea hides her condition, wrapping her belly in loose linen to evade Cronus' watchful eye. She travels in secret to Crete, her steps silent on rocky paths, to give birth in a cave on Mount Ida. You might see her cradling the newborn Zeus, swaddled in goatskins, entrusting him to nymphs and a she-goat Amalthea, who nurses him with milk from sacred springs. To deceive Cronus, Rhea wraps a stone in cloth, presenting it as her child. Cronus, consumed by paranoia, swallows it without question, his massive form casting shadows across the hall. Rhea's heart aches for her other children, Hestia, the gentle hearth-keeper, Hera, proud and regal, Demeter, tied to the earth's bounty, Poseidon, restless as the sea, and Hades, somber and unseen, trapped within their father's body. Her daily routine continues. She tends to the Titan's hearth, ensures the cycles of day and night, and listens to Cronus' boasts, all while nurturing hope for Zeus' return. The nymphs on Crete raise Zeus in secrecy, feeding him honey and teaching him the ways of the wild, his strength growing with each passing year. Zeus, now a young god, learns of his siblings' fate and vows to free them. You can picture him, his eyes crackling with nascent thunder, training in Crete's mountains, wielding a spear crafted by local shepherds. Rhea, still bound to Cronus, sends messages through wind spirits, guiding Zeus to allies like the Cyclopes and Hecatoncheires, monstrous siblings imprisoned by Cronus. The stage is set for the Titanomachy, a war that will reshape the heavens. But as Zeus prepares to challenge his father, the question lingers: can Rhea's quiet resilience and Zeus' growing power unite their fractured family to overthrow Cronus? And what will it cost to restore the bonds torn apart by her fathers? Fear! You are still on the mist-laden slopes of Mount Orthres, where the Titan court reigns in uneasy splendor. The air hums with the tension of an impending upheaval as Rhea, mother of Zeus and his swallowed siblings Hestia, Hera, Demeter, Poseidon, and Hades, nurtures a secret plan to overthrow Cronus. Hesiod's Theogony describes a quiet defiance as she maintains the facade of a dutiful Titaness, all while her son Zeus grows in strength on Crete, hidden from his father's wrath. Picture Rhea in the grand hall, her robes flowing like starlight, as she pours nectar for Cronus, her eyes betraying none of the resolve that burns within. Her daily tasks ranging offerings of barley, tending the cosmic hearth, ensuring the stars' cycles mask her role as the architect of a divine rebellion. Rhea's life is one of careful balance. Each day, she navigates the Titan court, where Cronus' paranoia casts a shadow. You can imagine her exchanging measured words with Titans like Oceanus or Themis, her voice calm as she discusses the season's turn or the alignment of constellations, all while steering conversations away from her absent son. Her visits to Crete are clandestine, disguised as pilgrimages to sacred groves. There she checks on Zeus, now a young god, his frame strong from training in the mountains. You might see her passing him messages through nymphs, urging him to seek the Cyclopes and Hecatoncheires, monstrous allies imprisoned by Cronus in Tartarus. Her guidance is subtler whisper of strategy, a suggestion to forge alliances ensuring Zeus' rebellion is rooted in her wisdom. Zeus, meanwhile, prepares for war. On Crete, he hones his strength, sparring with shepherds and wielding spears under the watchful eyes of nymphs. The Cyclopes, freed from their chains, gift him thunderbolts, their craftsmanship sparking with divine power. The Hecatoncheires, 100-handed giants, pledge their might, Their boulder-hurling strength a counter to Cronus' forces. You can picture Zeus meeting them in secret caves, his voice steady as he rallies these outcasts, his mother's cunning reflected in his plans. Rhea's role remains unseen but vital. She sends wind spirits to carry Zeus' messages ensuring the Titans remain unaware. Her days in the court continue overseeing feasts, arranging libations, yet each act is a cover for her coordination. Her heart fixed on freeing her children trapped in Cronus' belly. Back in the Titan hall, Cronus grows restless, his dreams plagued by the prophecy of his downfall. Rhea, ever vigilant, maintains her composure, her hands steady as she weaves tapestries or offers counsel to her Titan kin. The other Titans, bound by loyalty or fear, suspect nothing. They focus on maintaining cosmic order. But as Zeus gathers his forces, the air thickens with the promise of conflict. Rhea's quiet labor, her secret journeys, her coded messages has set the stage for the Titanomachy, a war that will pit father against son, sibling against sibling. As Zeus prepares to confront Cronus, the question looms, can Rhea's hidden efforts and Zeus' newfound alliances topple a Titan king? And will the familial bonds she seeks to restore survive the chaos of divine war? You stand amidst the chaos of the Titanomachy, where the heavens quake and the earth trembles under the clash of gods and titans. Mount Orthres looms in the distance, its peaks shrouded in storm clouds conjured by Zeus' thunderbolts. Rhea, the Titaness, mother of Zeus and his siblings Hestia, Hera, Demeter, Poseidon, and Hades watches from the shadows, her heart torn between hope and dread. Hesiod's Theogony recounts this war as a decade-long struggle, but it's Rhea's quiet resilience that has brought it to this point. Her secret nurturing of Zeus, her deception with the stone to save him from Cronus' gullet, and her guidance in rallying allies like the Cyclopes and Hecatoncheires have set the stage. Picture her now, her robes dimmed by ash, standing on a cliff, her eyes fixed on the battlefield where her son challenges her husband. The war's turning point comes through Zeus' cunning and Rhea's strategy. Zeus, armed with thunderbolts forged by the Cyclopes, leads his allies against Cronus' Titan forces. You can imagine the Hecatoncheires hurling boulders, their 100 hands a blur. While Zeus' lightning splits the sky, it's raw drowning. Out-Titan war cries. Rhea's role remains unseen. She slips through the Titan court, maintaining her duties, pouring nectar, aligning stars while feeding Zeus' intelligence through wind spirits. The critical moment arrives when Zeus tricks Cronus into drinking a potion crafted with Gaia's aid. That forces him to regurgitate his swallowed children. You might see Hestia, Hera, Demeter, Poseidon, and Hades emerging, weakened but divine, their forms shimmering as they join Zeus. The siblings unite, their bond forged by Rhea's sacrifice, their powers fire, sea, earth, underworld complementing. Zeus' sky, the Titanomachy ends with the Titans' defeat, Cronus and his kin imprisoned in Tartarus, guarded by the Hecatoncheires. Rhea's children ascend to Olympus, their roles defined. Hestia tends the hearth, Hera claims queenship, Demeter nurtures the harvest, Poseidon rules the seas, Hades the underworld. Zeus, now king, owes his throne to Rhea's quiet labor, her deception, her messages, her unwavering faith in her children. Yet her victory is bittersweet. You can picture her standing alone, her hands still stained with the herbs used in Zeus' potion, watching her children rule a new order. The familial bonds she fought to restore are intact, but the Olympians' rivalries, Hera's jealousy, Poseidon's ambition hint at future discord. Rhea fades from the forefront, her role as mother complete, her days returning to the rhythms of cosmic maintenance. The overthrow of Cronus shaped Greek mythology, establishing the Olympian order and reinforcing the power of familial loyalty against tyranny. Rhea's story, rooted in the mundane acts of nurturing and deception, underscores the strength of quiet resolve. Her legacy endures in the gods' rule, each sibling a testament to her sacrifice. Reflecting on this, you might consider the unseen labors that shape our own world, parents, mentors, planners whose efforts, like Rhea's, go uncelebrated but enable great change. How do we honor those who, through daily persistence, mend broken bonds or topple obstacles? And what does Rhea's silent triumph teach us about the power of family? In the face of overwhelming odds, Hera's vigil, jealousy and power in the Queen of Olympus household you. Find yourself atop the golden peaks of Mount Olympus, where the air shimmers with divine light and the scent of ambrosia lingers. Here, Hera, queen of the gods, reigns, alongside Zeus, her husband and brother, in a palace of marble and cloud. As depicted in Homer's Iliad and Hesiod's Theogony, Hera is the goddess of marriage and family, her presence commanding yet shadowed by a vigilance born of Zeus. Infidelities. Picture her seated on a throne inlaid with peacock feathers, her robes woven with threads of gold, her eyes sharp as she surveys the divine court. Her days are filled with the duties of queenship, overseeing feasts, mediating disputes among gods, and ensuring the sacred bonds of marriage are upheld in both divine and mortal realms. Hera's routine is one of meticulous authority. Each morning, she rises to inspect the Olympian halls, ensuring altars are adorned with laurel and myrrh for daily offerings. You can imagine her directing nymphs to polish silver amphorae, or arrange platters of figs and honey for divine banquets. Her role extends to mortal affairs. She blesses weddings, her presence invoked by brides pouring libations of wine, and punishes those who break marital vows, her wrath swift but measured. Her sacred animal, the peacock, struts through the palace gardens, its iridescent feathers a symbol of her watchful gaze. Yet, beneath her regal demeanor lies a constant tension, Zeus' wandering eye, his dalliances with mortals and nymphs producing offspring that challenge Hera's authority. Her vigilance is most evident in her response to these betrayals. Take, for instance, Zeus' affair with the mortal Alcmene, mother of Heracles. Hera's jealousy, as recounted in the Homeric hymns, drives her to delay Heracles' birth, prolonging Alcmene's labor through divine intervention. You might picture Hera, her hands steady as she weaves spells at her loom, her threads imbued with magic to thwart her husband's lovers. She sends serpents to strangle the infant Heracles. Though he survives, his strength a bitter reminder of Zeus' infidelity. Her days are a balance of divine duties and personal vendettas, blessing a mortal bride in one moment, cursing a rival's child in the next. Her palace chambers, filled with looms and altars, are both a sanctuary and a war room where she plans her responses to Zeus' transgressions. Hera's power, though immense, is constrained by her role as Zeus' consort. She cannot directly challenge him, so her influence is exerted through cunning, manipulating events, rallying allies like Athena or Poseidon, or punishing mortals who catch Zeus' eye. Her daily life, though divine, mirrors a mortal queen's, overseeing household order, maintaining alliances, and guarding her status. The other gods respect her, but her jealousy makes her a figure of awe and fear. As she watches Zeus flirt with a nymph or sire another hero, her heart hardens, her resolve to protect her queenship growing fiercer. But how will Hera's vigilance, her tireless watch over her household, shape the dynamics of Olympus? And can her jealous schemes maintain her power in a court ruled by an unfaithful king? You remain in the radiant halls of Mount Olympus, where Hera, queen of the gods, presides with a blend of grace and vigilance. The air is filled with the scent of myrrh from burning altars, and the soft hum of divine activity surrounds her nymphs, polishing marble, gods debating in low tones. Hera's role as goddess of marriage demands constant oversight, but her heart is consumed by Zeus' betrayals, each new affair a slight to her authority. Homer's Iliad and the Homeric hymns portray her as a figure of immense power, yet her days are marked by a restless watchfulness, her eyes tracking Zeus' movements across the cosmos. Picture her at her loom, weaving tapestries of starlight and gold, each thread a subtle spell to monitor her husband's wanderings or curse his mortal lovers. Hera's daily routine is a delicate balance of divine duty and personal vendetta. She oversees Olympian feasts, ensuring ambrosia flows and golden tables gleam. Her commands to nymphs precise range laurel garlands, burn offerings at dawn. You can imagine her walking the palace gardens, her peacock trailing behind, its feathers glinting as she inspects altars dedicated to her. In mortal realms, she blesses weddings, her presence felt in the wine poured by brides or the oaths sworn in her name. But her focus often shifts to Zeus' indiscretions. Take Io, a mortal priestess loved by Zeus. Hera, sensing the affair, transforms, Io into a cow and sends a gadfly to torment her, driving her across continents. You might see Hera at her altar, murmuring incantations, her hands steady as she binds the spell. Her face calm, but her heart seething. Her schemes extend to Zeus' offspring, particularly Heracles, whose existence as Alcmene's son galls her. She orchestrates his 12 labors, manipulating events so that King Eurystheus imposes grueling tasks, slaying the Nemean lion, cleaning the Augean stables. Each labor is a calculated move, her influence woven through mortal kings and oracles, ensuring Heracles suffers for his father's sins. You can picture her watching from Olympus, her throne beside Zeus, her expression serene as she nudges fate against her stepson. Yet, her power is not absolute. Zeus, though unfaithful, remains king, and Hera must tread carefully, her authority dependent on cunning rather than confrontation. She allies with gods like Poseidon, who shares her resentment of Zeus' dominance, or Athena, whose loyalty she secures through shared reverence for order. Hera's vigilance shapes Olympus' dynamics, her jealousy a constant undercurrent. The gods, aware of her wrath, tread lightly. Apollo avoids her gaze. Aphrodite smirks but keeps her distance. Her palace chambers, filled with looms and sacred relics, are a sanctuary where she plans her moves, her fingers tracing patterns that mirror her intricate schemes. The daily grind of maintaining her queenship, blessing marriages, punishing oath breakers. Monitoring Zeus never ceases, but as her efforts to control Zeus' affairs intensify, a question lingers: can Hera's relentless vigil, her blend of divine duty and jealous retribution, maintain her power in a court where her husband's infidelities threaten the very bonds of marriage? She champions. You linger in the gleaming halls of Mount Olympus, where Hera, queen of the gods, maintains a vigilant watch over her divine household. The air sparkles with the glow of ambrosia and the faint rustle of peacock feathers trailing her steps. Her role as goddess of marriage and family binds her to a ceaseless task, upholding sacred vows, while contending with Zeus' relentless infidelities. Homer's Iliad and the Homeric hymns depict her as a figure of immense power, yet her life is defined by a delicate balance of regal duty and calculated retribution. Picture her now, standing by a marble altar, her hands arranging laurel offerings, her eyes scanning the horizon for signs of Zeus' latest betrayal. Her vigilance, though rooted in the mundane routines of divine governance, shapes the varied dynamics of Olympus. Hera's retribution reaches its peak in her campaigns against Zeus' lovers and offspring. Beyond Io and Heracles, she targets figures like Semele, mother of Dionysus. Sensing Zeus' affection, Hera disguises herself as a mortal nurse, tricking Semele into demanding Zeus reveal his divine form, knowing it will incinerate her. You can imagine Hera, her voice soft but laced with malice, planting the fatal suggestion, her hands steady as she pours wine for oblivious gods. Her schemes are woven into her daily tasks, while blessing a mortal wedding with a nod from Olympus. She dispatches a storm to strand a rival ship. Her chambers, filled with looms and sacred relics, are a war room where she crafts spells. Her tapestries imbued with magic to track Zeus' dalliances or curse his progeny. Yet, Hera's power is not without cost. Her jealousy isolates her among the gods. Athena, though an ally, grows wary of her relentless vendettas. Poseidon, a sometime partner, pursues his own ambitions. Zeus, unchallenged as king, tolerates her schemes but never yields his authority absolute. You might picture Hera at a divine council, her throne beside Zeus, her voice commanding as she mediates disputes Apollo's oracles. Ars wars while her heart burns with unspoken resentment. Her daily routine overseeing feasts, blessing mortal brides, ensuring altars burn bright continues. But each act is tinged with a struggle to maintain her queenship. The Olympian court, though harmonious on the surface, crackles with the tension of her unyielding watchfulness. Hera's legacy endures in Greek culture, her story a warning of jealousy's destructive force and a testament to the strength of those who guard their domain against betrayal. Her vigilance, though rooted in the ordinary tasks of divine rule, shaped the myths of heroes and gods, from Heracles' labors to the Trojan War's divine factions. Reflecting on Hera, you might consider the quiet battles fought to preserve honor and power in our own lives, whether in families, workplaces, or communities. Her story, driven by the daily grind of maintaining her status, reveals the cost of vigilance in the face of betrayal. How do we balance loyalty and resentment when trust is broken? And what does Hera's unrelenting watch teach us about the strength and peril of guarding what we hold dear in a world where power, like Zeus' love, is ever-shifting? Prometheus' fire, defiance against Zeus for the sake of mortal show, stand on the craggy slopes of Mount Caucasus, where the wind howls and the air is sharp with the scent of pine and stone. Here, in the mythic dawn of the world, Prometheus, a titan of foresight and cunning, toils for the sake of humanity. Hesiod's Theogony and Aeschylus' Prometheus bound depict him as a rebel against divine order, a craftsman of mortals who defies Zeus to uplift his creations. Picture him in a rugged workshop, not of marble but of earth and clay, his hands shaping the first humans from riverbed mud, his eyes gleaming with purpose. Unlike the Olympians, Prometheus is no distant god. His days are spent among mortals, teaching them to survive in a world indifferent to their fragility. Prometheus' routine is one of tireless ingenuity. You can imagine him kneeling by a stream, molding clay into human forms, his fingers pressing eyes and limbs with care, breathing life into them with a spark stolen from the heavens. His creations are weak, shivering in animal hides, their lives dependent on his guidance. He teaches them to build shelters from branches, to plant barley, to carve spears from ash wood. Each task is deliberate. He shows a hunter how to flint an arrowhead, a farmer how to turn soil with a wooden plow. His workshop is open to the elements, strewn with tools, stone chisels, bone needles, clay pots for mixing pigments. Mortals gather round him, their faces lit by firelight, learning the rhythms of survival under his patient instruction. Yet Prometheus' heart grows heavy with their struggles. Zeus, newly crowned king of the gods after the Titanomachy, decrees that mortals must offer sacrifices, burning the best portions for the gods while keeping scraps. Prometheus, ever their advocate, devises a trick. At a sacrificial feast in Mecone, he divides an ox, hiding the meat under bones and offering Zeus a choice between a pile of gleaming fat and a bony heap. You might picture him, his hands slick with blood, arranging the bones with a subtle smile, knowing Zeus will choose the lesser share. Zeus, enraged by the deception, withholds fire from mortals, plunging them into cold and darkness. Their fragile shelters offer little warmth. Their raw food barely sustains them. Prometheus, undeterred, resolves to defy Zeus. You can see him, climbing Mount Olympus under cover of night, his steps silent on the starry paths, approaching the divine hearth where flames burn eternal. With a reed stolen from a riverbank, he captures a spark, its glow hidden in his cloak as he descends to earth. He gifts this fire to mortals, teaching them to kindle it with flint and tinder, to cook meat to warm their huts. The first flames flicker across human settlements, their light a beacon of hope. But Zeus, from his throne, sees the glow and knows Prometheus' defiance. As the Titan watches his mortals thrive, their faces warmed by firelight, a question looms. How will Zeus, king of the gods, punish a Titan who dares to steal divine power for the sake of humanity's survival? You remain on the rugged slopes of Mount Caucasus, where Prometheus, the Titan of foresight, continues his tireless work among mortals. The air is warm now, lit by the flickering fires he has gifted to humanity, their glow casting shadows across mud brick huts. Hesiod's Theogony and Aeschylus' Prometheus bound depict him as a steadfast advocate for his creations, having defied Zeus by stealing fire from Olympus to save mortals from cold and darkness. Picture him now, his hands still, flecked with clay, teaching a group of mortals to tend a fire, showing them how to stack kindling and strike flint to spark a flame. His presence is a beacon of hope, his deep voice calm as he instructs them in the art of survival, his eyes reflecting the firelight's promise. Prometheus' days are filled with the labor of uplifting humanity. You can imagine him moving from village to village, his tunic worn from travel, helping mortals refine their newfound fire. He shows them how to roast barley cakes, their aroma a stark improvement over raw grain, and to forge crude bronze tools, heating metal in clay furnaces. His workshop, open to the sky, is a clutter of practical tools, stone hammers, woven baskets, and reeds for carrying fire. He teaches women to boil water in pots, men to smelt ore, and children to warm their hands safely. Each lesson is deliberate, rooted in his vision of mortals thriving beyond mere survival. You might see a farmer, his face weathered, listening as Prometheus explains how fire can clear fields for planting, or a hunter learning to harden spear tips in flames. Yet, Zeus' wrath looms over this progress. From Olympus, the king of gods, watches the spread of fire, its light a defiance of his decree. Prometheus knows the risk his trick at Mecone. Deceiving Zeus with bones to secure meat for mortals already provoked divine anger. Now, the theft of fire has escalated his rebellion. You can picture him glancing skyward, his foresight sensing Zeus' growing fury, yet he continues his work, undeterred. He builds hearths in mortal settlements, showing them how to bank coals for lasting warmth, and crafts simple forges, their heat transforming raw copper into blades. His defiance is not loud but practical, woven into the daily grind of teaching mortals to harness fire's power, from cooking to crafting. The mortals, grateful but fearful, begin to revere Prometheus, offering him small tokens woven cords, clay figurines left at makeshift altars. He accepts them quietly, his focus on their progress rather than worship. But Zeus spies. Perhaps wind spirits or watchful eagles report Prometheus' actions. The Titans' days, though filled with the mundane tasks of teaching, showing a potter how to fire clay, a weaver how to dye wool with heated pigments, are shadowed by the inevitability of divine retribution. His rebellion has lit a spark in humanity, but it has also ignited Zeus' anger. As Prometheus watches a mortal family gather around a hearth, their faces warmed by his gift, a question hangs heavy. How will Zeus punish a Titan whose defiance has empowered mortals, and can Prometheus' foresight protect him from the consequences of his compassion? You stand once more on the rocky slopes of Mount Caucasus, where the air is sharp and the distant glow of mortal fires flickers like stars. Against the night, Prometheus, the Titan who stole fire from Olympus, has transformed humanity's fate, granting them warmth, light, and the means to thrive. But his defiance has not gone unnoticed. Zeus, king of the gods, broods on his throne, his eyes fixed on the flames spreading across mortal lands. Aeschylus, Prometheus bound, and Hesiod's Theogony describe the Titan's punishment as a brutal consequence of his rebellion, a warning to those who challenge divine order. Picture Prometheus now, his hands still dusted with clay, standing among mortals, teaching them to forge bronze tools, unaware that his fate is about to be sealed. Zeus' retribution is swift and unyielding. He commands Hephaestus, the god of the forge, to bind Prometheus to a crag on Mount Caucasus. You can imagine the scene, Prometheus unresisting but defiant, as chains forged by his own Cyclopean kin are clamped around his wrists and ankles. An eagle, sent by Zeus, arrives daily to tear at his liver, its beak relentless, only for the organ to regrow each night, ensuring eternal torment. The Titan's cries echo across the peaks, yet his spirit remains unbroken. His foresight having warned him of this price, his workshop, once alive with teaching, lies abandoned, its tools stone chisels, clay pots, woven baskets scattered by the wind. Mortals, now wielding fire, continue his legacy, cooking meat, forging weapons, and warming their huts, their lives forever changed by his gift. Prometheus' punishment becomes a cornerstone of Greek myth, a tale of sacrifice and defiance. His daily torment, endured for humanity's sake, contrasts with the mundane routines he once taught: kindling fires, shaping clay, planting seeds. You might picture mortals gathering around hearths, whispering tales of the Titan who suffered. For them, their offerings of barley or woven cords left at crude altars in his honor. Zeus, in response, sends Pandora, a woman crafted with a box of woes, to plague humanity, ensuring their fire comes with hardship, disease, toil, sorrow, yet Prometheus' gift endures, its flames enabling progress from smelting metals to illuminating dark winters. His rebellion, rooted in the ordinary act of teaching survival, reshapes the mortal world, embedding fire as a symbol of human resilience. The Titan's story fades into myth, his chains a lasting image of sacrifice. Freed later by Heracles, Prometheus' legacy lives in every flame, every forged tool, every act of human ingenuity. His defiance, born of compassion, challenges the divine hierarchy, showing that even gods can be swayed by mortal need. Reflecting on Prometheus, you might consider the quiet rebels in our own time those who risk all for others' gain, their efforts often unnoticed until history lights their spark. His story, tied to the daily grind of teaching mortals to survive, asks us to ponder, what sacrifices do we make for progress, and how do we honor those who, like Prometheus, defy power to kindle hope in a world that often seeks to keep us in the dark? The judgment of Paris, apples, goddesses, and the seeds of war. You stand on the verdant slopes of Mount Ida near Troy around 1200 BCE, where the air is fragrant with pine and wildflowers. Paris, a young Trojan prince raised as a shepherd, tends his flock, his life one of pastoral simplicity far from the royal courts. Homer's Iliad and later sources like the Cypria cast him as an unwitting pawn in a divine scheme that will ignite the Trojan War. Picture him now, his tunic stained with earth, leaning on a staff as he guides his sheep through grassy hills, their bleating a constant rhythm. His days are filled with the ordinary tasks of a shepherd, checking hoofs for stones, shearing wool, and guarding against wolves under the starlit sky. Paris' world is quiet but not isolated. He lives among other shepherds, sharing meals of barley bread and goat cheese by campfires, his skill with a sling earning their respect. You can imagine him, his dark curls damp with sweat, practicing throws against a tree, unaware of his true lineage as a son of King Priam and Queen Hecuba of Troy. Abandoned at birth due to a prophecy foretelling Troy's doom, Paris was raised by shepherds, his royal blood hidden beneath a rustic life. His routine is predictable, mornings spent driving sheep to pasture, afternoons weaving reed baskets, evenings singing tales of gods under the constellations. Yet, this simplicity is about to be shattered by divine intervention. The catalyst is a golden apple inscribed with "To the fairest," thrown by Eris, goddess of discord, into a divine wedding feast for Peleus and Thetis. Excluded from the celebration, Eris' spiteful gift sparks a quarrel among Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite over who deserves the apple. Zeus, unwilling to decide, delegates the judgment to Paris, guided by Hermes. You might picture the moment, Paris, resting under an oak, startled as Hermes appears, his winged sandals glinting, presenting the apple and summoning the goddesses. Hera, regal and commanding, promises Paris power and kingship. Athena, sharp-eyed, offers wisdom and victory in war. Aphrodite, radiant, pledges the love of the world's most beautiful woman. Helen of Sparta, the shepherd prince accustomed to judging lambs, now faces a choice that will reshape history. The goddess's arrival transforms Paris' humble life. His sheep wander untended as he listens, his hands clutching the golden apple, its weight heavy with consequence. The shepherds around him fall silent, awed by the divine presence. Paris, though untrained in courtly ways, senses the stakes each goddess offer tempts a different ambition, but only one can claim the apple. His daily routine herding, shearing, singing fades into the background as he weighs power, wisdom, and love against the backdrop of his pastoral world. As he stands on Mount Ida, the question looms, how will a shepherd's choice, made in a moment of divine pressure, sow the seeds of a war that will consume Troy? And what does Paris' sudden elevation from obscurity reveal about the fragile balance between mortal decisions and divine games? You remain on the sun-dappled slopes of Mount Ida, where Paris, the Trojan prince raised as a shepherd, stands clutching the golden apple inscribed with "To the fairest." The air is thick with the scent of pine and the distant bleating of his untended flock. Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, radiant and commanding, await his judgment, their divine presence casting an unearthly glow across the hillside. The Cypria and Homer's Iliad framed this moment as a pivot in the Trojan War's origins. where a mortal's choice will ignite divine rivalries and mortal bloodshed. Picture Paris, his shepherd's tunic out of place against the goddess's splendor, his hands trembling as he weighs their offers, Hera's promise of power, Athena's gift of wisdom, and Aphrodite's pledge of Helen's love. Paris' daily life, once defined by simple tasks, is now a distant memory. Before this divine interruption, his mornings were spent guiding sheep to pasture, his fingers combing wolfaburs, his evenings filled with songs by the fire. You can imagine him yesterday, mending a reed basket or carving a staff, unaware of the cosmic role awaiting him. Now, under the goddess's gaze, his pastoral routine is irrelevant. Hera, regal in her peacock-feathered robe, offers him dominion over kingdoms, her voice steady as she paints visions of ruling Asia. Athena, her helmet gleaming, promises unmatched wisdom and victory in battle, her words sharp with strategic allure. Aphrodite, her eyes warm and disarming, speaks of Helen, the most beautiful woman, whose love will elevate Paris beyond his shepherd's life. Each offer tugs at his ambitions, stirring desires he never knew he harbored. The weight of the decision consumes him. You might see Paris pacing the hillside, the golden apple heavy in his hand, its surface catching the sunlight as he turns it over. His fellow shepherds, watching from a distance, whisper among themselves. They're all tinged with fear at the divine assembly. Paris, though raised in simplicity, is not naive. His foresight, perhaps a flicker of his royal blood, senses the consequences of choosing one goddess over the others. Hera's power tempts his pride, Athena's wisdom his intellect. But Aphrodite's promise of lover-passion tied to Helen of Sparta stirs his heart. His days of judging sheep for strengthful quality seem trivial now, yet that same instinct for judgment guides him. The goddesses, impatient but bound by Zeus' decree, watch closely. Their rivalry a silent storm brewing around him as Paris deliberates. The ordinary rhythms of his life herding, weaving, guarding the flock fade into the background. The sheep graze unattended, their bleating unanswered as he stands at the crossroads of fate. His choice, though made in a moment, will ripple beyond Mount Ida, entangling gods and mortals in a war that will define an age. The question looms, will Paris' decision, shaped by a shepherd's heart yet swayed by divine promises, favor power, wisdom, or love? And how will his choice unleash the divine wrath that sets Troy on a path to destruction? You stand on the windswept slopes of Mount Ida, where the air is taut with the weight of Paris' decision. The golden apple, inscribed to the fairest, rests in the Trojan prince's hand, its gleam a stark contrast to his shepherd's tunic. Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite stand before him, their divine radiance casting long shadows across the hillside. The Cypria and Homer's Iliad mark this moment as the spark of the Trojan War, a mortal's choice igniting divine wrath and mortal ruin. Picture Paris, his eyes flickering between the goddesses, his pastoral life herding sheep, weaving baskets, singing by campfires now a distant memory as he selects Aphrodite, swayed by her promise of Helen's love, the most beautiful woman in the world. The aftermath is immediate. Aphrodite, radiant with triumph, blesses Paris with a charm that will win Helen's heart, her smile warm but laced with destiny. Hera and Athena, scorned, depart with barely concealed fury, their promises of power and wisdom rejected. You can imagine Hera's regal glare, her peacock feathers quivering, and Athena's sharp eyes narrowing, both vowing vengeance against Troy. Paris, unaware of the full consequences, returns to his flock, the golden apple left as an offering to Aphrodite. His simple routine resumes guiding sheep, mending pens, but his heart now burns with ambition. Guided by Aphrodite, he soon learns his true heritage as a son of King Priam and is welcomed back to Troy's palace. His shepherd days traded for royal robes. Paris' choice sets a catastrophic chain in motion. He sails to Sparta, where Helen, wife of King Menelaus, falls under Aphrodite's spell. You might picture their meeting, Paris, newly princely, his charm divine, and Helen, her beauty unmatched. Drawn irresistibly to him, they flee to Troy, her abduction or willing departure sparking outrage across Greece. Menelaus, backed by his brother Agamemnon, rallies the Greek kings, their oaths binding them to retrieve Helen. Hera and Athena, nursing their grudges, align with the Greeks, while Aphrodite supports Troy, ensuring a divine feud mirrors the mortal one. The Trojan War begins, its battles fueled by Paris' judgment, his choice of love over power, or wisdom dooming his city to a decade of siege. Paris fades into the war's broader narrative, his role as a shepherd prince overshadowed by heroes, like Achilles and Hector. Yet, his decision, made in a moment on a quiet hillside, reshapes the Greek world, its ripples felt in Troy's fall and the myths that follow. The golden apple, a simple object, became a catalyst for destruction, showing how a single choice can unravel empires. Reflecting on Paris, you might ponder the weight of decisions in our own lives, often made in mundane moments, choosing a job, a partner, a path. His story, rooted in the ordinary life of a shepherd, asks, how do our choices, swayed by desire or ambition, ripple beyond our sight? And what does the judgment of Paris teach us about the power of a single act to sow chaos, or creation in a world shaped by unseen forces? Orpheus' lyre, music's power to charm, and mourn. You find yourself in the lush forests of Thrace, around 1200 BCE, where the air hums with the rustle of leaves and the distant rush of a river. Here, Orpheus, the legendary musician of Greek myth, wanders with his lyre, his music weaving magic into the world. Ovid's Metamorphoses and Apollodorus' Bibliotheca portray him as a poet and singer, whose melodies contain beasts and bend nature itself. Picture him now, his tunic loose, his fingers dancing across the strings of his lyre. Crafted from polished wood and tortoise shell, its notes echoing through the glades. His days are spent in song, a life of art and devotion far from the battles and thrones of other myths. Orpheus' routine is one of creation and communion. Each morning, he rises with the dawn, tuning his lyre by a stream, adjusting its gut strings to harmonize with the wind. You can imagine him sitting on a mossy rock, practicing scales that ripple like water, his voice blending with the notes to sing of stars, rivers, and gods. His music draws listeners, deer pause to listen, trees sway as if entranced. Even stones seem to shift closer. He travels through Thracian villages, sharing songs at communal fires, teaching shepherds to play simple flutes or weave poetry into their tales. His tools are few, his lyre, a plectrum of bone, a satchel for herbs and offerings, but his presence transforms the mundane, making every meadow a stage. His life is intertwined with Eurydice, his beloved, a nymph whose grace matches his music. You might picture them together, her laughter mingling with his songs as they wander hand in hand. Her steps light on the forest floor. Their love is the heart of Orpheus' art. His lyre's melodies often inspired by her songs of blooming flowers, gentle winds, or her eyes reflecting starlight. He performs at village weddings, his music blessing unions with notes that seem to bind souls. Yet, tragedy strikes when Eurydice, fleeing a pursuer, steps on a viper and dies. Her life snuffed out in a moment. Orpheus' world darkens, his lyre falls silent, his days of joyful song replaced by grief. You can see him, his face hollow, clutching the lyre as he resolves to retrieve her from the underworld. Orpheus' journey begins with a descent to Hades' realm, his lyre his only weapon. He navigates the Styx, his music softening Charon, the ferryman who rows him across the dark river. You might imagine him standing before Hades and Persephone, his fingers trembling as he plays a melody so poignant it stills the underworlds. Torments, shades weep, the Furies pause, and even Hades' heart softens. Granting Eurydice's release on one condition: Orpheus must not look back as they ascend, until they fully leave the underworld. His daily routine tuning strings, singing to nature is now a distant memory, replaced by this desperate quest. As he begins the ascent, Eurydice's footsteps faint behind him. The question looms: can Orpheus' music, born of love and honed through years of quiet practice, conquer death itself, or will his mortal heart betray him in the face of divine rules? You are deep in the shadowy depths of the underworld, where the air is heavy with the chill of death and the faint wail of shades. Orpheus, the Thracian musician, descends with his lyre, his heart set on reclaiming his beloved Eurydice, lost to a viper's bite. Ovid's Metamorphoses paints this journey, As a testament to music's power, his melodies softening the grim. Rulers of the dead, picture Orpheus, his tunic tattered, his fingers steady on the lyre's strings, each note a plea as he navigates the Styx. His daily life of tuning strings by Thracian streams and singing to villagers is a distant memory, replaced by this perilous quest. The lyre, crafted from wood and tortoise shell, is his only tool, its strings humming with a magic that bends even the underworld's laws. Orpheus' descent is a trial of endurance and art. You can imagine him passing Cerberus, the three-headed hound, whose growls soften under the lyre's soothing chords, its heads drooping as he plays. The shades of the dead, drifting aimlessly, pause to listen, their hollow eyes glistening with forgotten tears. Orpheus' music, honed through years of practice adjusting strings to match the wind. Blending voice with melody becomes a force of life in this realm of death. He stands before Hades and Persephone, their thrones cold and unyielding, and pours his grief into song. You might see his fingers trembling, plucking notes that tell of Eurydice's laughter, their love, her sudden loss. The melody is raw, each chord a memory of sunlit walks and shared songs, moving even the Furies to weep, their snakes stilled. Hades, stirred by the music, grants a rare concession. Eurydice may return, but Orpheus must not look back as they ascend. Until they fully leave the underworld, you can picture Persephone, her gaze softened, nodding as Eurydice is summoned from the shades, her form pale but whole. Orpheus begins the ascent, his lyre silent now, his steps careful on the rocky path. The condition weighs heavily, trust in the god's word versus the urge to see his love. His routine of crafting songs for joy, once second nature, is replaced. By this test of faith, you might hear Eurydice's faint footsteps behind him, her breath a whisper, urging him forward. The darkness presses in, the path endless, each step a battle against doubt. The underworld's silence is oppressive, broken only by the drip of water and the shuffle of their feet. Orpheus, accustomed to charming beasts and trees, now faces a challenge no song can solve. His heart, so tuned to music's rhythm, struggles with the absence of her touch, her voice. The ascent is a slow march, his mind replaying their life singing by Thracian fires. Her hand in his. The condition set by Hades tests not just his love, but his discipline, forged through years of perfecting his craft. As they near the surface, the question looms, can Orpheus, whose music tamed death itself, resist the mortal urge to look back? Or will his love for Eurydice undo the very art that won her release? You stand at the threshold of the underworld, where the air grows lighter but the darkness clings. As Orpheus ascends with Eurydice trailing behind, his lyre, silent now, hangs at his side, its strings still warm from the melodies that swayed. Hades and Persephone. Ovid's Metamorphoses captures this moment as the climax of Orpheus' quest, his music having won Eurydice's release with the condition that he not look back until they fully exit the underworld. Picture Orpheus, his steps deliberate on the rocky path, his heart pounding with hope and fear. The faint sound of Eurydice's footsteps echoes, a fragile assurance of her presence. His life of singing by Thracian streams, charming beasts and trees, feels distant, replaced by this test of trust and discipline. The ascent is agonizing. You can imagine Orpheus, his fingers twitching as if to play a note, resisting the urge to turn. The underworld's gloom presses in, its silence broken only by dripping water and Eurydice's soft tread. His mind replays their life, her laughter mingling with his songs, her hand weaving flowers into his hair. Each step tests the patience honed through years of tuning strings and crafting melodies. Doubt creeps in. Is she truly there, or have the gods deceived him? The path brightens, the surface near, but the absence of her touch gnaws at him. In a fatal moment, just before they cross the threshold, Orpheus turns, his love overpowering his restraint. You might see Eurydice, her face pale but radiant, reaching out as she fades back into the shadows, lost forever. Orpheus' grief is boundless. He emerges alone, his lyre now a weight rather than a joy. Returning to Thus, he wanders, his songs turn to laments. You can picture him by a river, his melodies mourning Eurydice, moving stones and trees but unable to change his fate. His music, once a gift to villagers played at weddings, shared by campfires, becomes a solitary act. His voice raw with loss, later, as Ovid recounts, Thracian maenads, enraged by his refusal to love again, tear him apart. His lyre and head floating down the Hebrus river, still singing of Eurydice. His shade rejoins her in the underworld, where they walk together, free to look upon each other without fear. Orpheus' story, rooted in the daily craft of music, became a cornerstone of Greek myth, celebrating art's power to transcend death, while warning of human frailty. His melodies, practiced in quiet moments, charmed gods and nature, but could not overcome his own heart. The myth shaped Greek views of love and loss, inspiring poets and musicians to see their craft as divine yet fragile. Reflecting on Orpheus, you might consider the artists in our world whose daily labors writing, singing, creating move hearts but often fail to shield them from pain. What does his story teach us about the limits of art in the face of love's demands, and how do we honor the quiet practice of those whose creations, like Orpheus' lyre, briefly defy the inevitable pull of loss? The labors of Heracles, strength, redemption, and divine trial show stand in the bustling city of Thebes, around 1200 BCE, where the air carries the scent of olive oil and the clang of bronze. From nearby forges, here, Heracles, the greatest hero of Greek myth, begins his journey, his life a blend of mortal struggle and divine destiny. Born of Zeus and the mortal Alcmene, as recounted in Hesiod's Theogony and Apollodorus' Bibliotheca, Heracles is both blessed with superhuman strength and cursed by Hera's relentless jealousy. Picture him in his youth, a towering figure with calloused hands, training in the fields outside Thebes. His days are filled with the ordinary labors of a warrior, wrestling with peers, practicing archery and forging spears, his strength already legendary as he lifts boulders to clear fields for farmers. Heracles' routine is one of discipline and duty. You can imagine him rising at dawn, his tunic damp with sweat, sparring with wooden swords or hauling logs to build palisades for Thebes' defenses. He hunts boar in the hills, his bow steady, and shares meat with villagers, earning their all. His foster father, Amphitryon, teaches him to drive chariots, the reins taut in his grip, while his mother Alcmene recounts tales of Zeus, her divine lover, fueling his sense of purpose. Yet Hera's wrath looms. As a child, she sent serpents to his crib, which he strangled, a feat whispered in Theban markets. Now, as a man, his life is disrupted when Hera, enraged by Zeus' infidelity, drives him to madness, causing him to slay his wife Megara and their children in a fit of rage. The guilt is crushing, his strength useless against his own remorse, seeking redemption. Heracles journeys to the oracle of Delphi, his steps heavy with grief. You might picture him kneeling before the Pythia, her voice echoing Apollo's will. To atone, he must serve King Eurystheus of Mycenae and complete 10 labors later, 12 due to disputes. Heracles accepts, his resolve hardened despite Hera's influence over Eurystheus, who designs tasks to break him. Returning to Thebes, he prepares, forging new weapons and training relentlessly. His daily grind sharpening blades, mending armor, offering sacrifices to Zeus takes on a new weight. Each act a step toward absolution. The first labor looms, slay the Nemean lion, a beast with an impenetrable hide, terrorizing Nemea. You can see Heracles inspecting his bow, testing arrows, knowing they may fail against such a creature. Thebes buzzes with tales of his quest, villagers offering him wine and barley cakes as blessings. His strength, honed through years of wrestling and hunting, is his greatest asset. But the labors will test more than muscle his wit, endurance, and humility. Hera's shadow follows, her schemes woven into each task, ensuring no victory comes easily. As Heracles sets out for Nemea, his club over his shoulder, the question lingers, can his mortal strength and divine heritage overcome the trials set by a vengeful goddess, and what will these labors, born of a hero's daily discipline, reveal about the path to redemption in a world ruled by unforgiving gods? You are in the rugged hills of Nemea, where the air is thick with the scent of pine, and the distant roar of the Nemean lion echoes. Heracles, driven by the oracle of Delphi's command to atone for his tragic crimes, has begun his 12 labours under King Eurystheus' orders, orchestrated by Hera's vengeful hand. Apollodorus' Bibliotheca and Diodorus' Siculus accounts detail his journey, blending brute strength with cunning resolve. Picture Heracles, his massive frame clad in a simple tunic, his club a gnarled olive branch slung over his shoulder as he tracks the lion, its golden hide impervious to mortal weapons, his days once filled with Theban training wrestling. Forging spears are now consumed by the relentless pursuit of redemption through grueling tasks. Heracles' approach to the labours is methodical, rooted in his disciplined routine. You can imagine him scouting Nemea's valleys, his sandals worn from rocky paths, studying the lion's track-scored prints deep in the earth. His arrows, tested against boar and deer, bounce off the beast's hide, forcing him to rely on strength alone. Cornering the lion in its cave, he wrestles it, his arms locking around its neck, choking it until it falls lifeless. He skins it with its own claws, crafting a cloak from its hide, a symbol of his triumph. His next labour, the Lernaean Hydra, proves tougher, a serpent with regenerating heads. You might see him in Lernaea's swamp, torch in hand, cauterizing each stump after slicing heads with a bronze sword, his companion Iolaus aiding with fire. Hera, spiteful, sends a crab to distract him, but Heracles crushes it, his focus unbroken. Each labour demands more than strength, they test his wit and endurance. Cleaning the Augean stables, a decades-old mire, he diverts rivers with a shovel and brute force, redirecting water in a single day. Capturing the Cernaean hind, sacred to Artemis, requires stealth, not violence. He stalks it for a year, his patience honed from hunting in Theban hills. You can picture him resting by campfires, sharpening his blade or mending his lion-skin cloak. Each task a continuation of his warrior's routine, but scaled to divine challenges. Eurystheus, under Hera's sway, dismisses to labour's hydra and stables for aid or payment, raising the count to 12. Heracles persists, his daily grind now a cycle of travel, combat, and offerings to Zeus for strength, his guilt a constant shadow. The labours reshape Heracles' legend, each victory spreading his fame across Greece. Villagers in Nemea and Lernaea offer him wine and barley cakes. They're all growing as he tames the Erymonthian boar or steals the mares of Diomedes. Yet Hera's influence ensures no task is simple, her schemes monsters. Divine interference testing his mortal limits. As he moves to the next labour, capturing the Cretan bull, his resolve is tempered by years of discipline. But the question lingers, can Heracles' strength and cunning, forged in the daily toil of a warrior's life, overcome Hera's relentless trials? Or will the weight of his guilt and her divine wrath prove too much for even the greatest hero? You stand amidst the scorched plains of Mycenae, where Heracles, the mightiest hero of Greek myth, nears the end of his 12 labours, each a step toward redemption for his hero-driven crime of slaying his family. The air carries the dust of his travels, and the faint tang of bronze from his weapons. Apollodorus' Bibliotheca and Euripides' works chronicle his trials, blending brute force with resilience against Hera's relentless schemes. Picture Heracles, his lion-skin cloak draped over his shoulders, his club worn from battles, as he completes tasks like stealing the girdle of the Amazon queen Hippolyta, or capturing the cattle of Geryon. His days, once defined by Theban training wrestling, forging spears, are now an epic cycle of combat, cunning and survival, each labour a testament to his unyielding spirit. The final labours push Heracles to his limits. To steal the apples of the Hesperides, he tricks Atlas into retrieving the golden fruit. Holding the heavens in his place, his muscles straining under the cosmic weight, you can imagine him, sweat-soaked, calculating each move. His years of hauling logs and wrestling beasts preparing him for this feat. The 12th labour capturing Cerberus, the three-headed hound of the underworld, demands he enter Hades, realm unarmed. You might see him wrestling the beast, his hands gripping its necks, dragging it to Eurystheus without a weapon, his strength alone prevailing. Each task is rooted in his daily discipline, scouting terrain, sharpening blades, offering sacrifices to Zeus for favour. Hera's interference monsters, divine obstacles never ceases, yet Heracles adapts. His wit as sharp as his club. His labours complete, Heracles returns to Mycenae. His body scarred, but his guilt lifted, Eurystheus, cowed by his success, releases him, and the gods, moved by his trials, grant him immortality. You can picture him ascending to Olympus, his lion-skin cloak a symbol of his triumphs, joining the divine ranks despite Hera's wrath. His labour slaying the Nemean lion, cleaning the Augean stables, fetching Cerberus become legends, sung in Greek villages, their tales inspiring warriors and poets. The tasks, grounded in the ordinary skills of hunting, crafting, and endurance, reshaped the Greek world, proving mortal strength could rival divine will. Heracles' redemption, earned through relentless effort, redefined heroism, blending raw power with humility before the gods. Reflecting on Heracles, his story mirrors the human struggle for atonement, each labour a step beyond the ordinary yet. Rooted in it, his daily grind from sharpening spears to outwitting monsters, built a legacy that endures in Western culture from statues to stories. You might consider those in our own time who face daunting trials personal, professional, or moral, relying on discipline honed in daily routines. Heracles' journey, driven by strength and remorse, asks, how do we overcome our own burdens through persistence? And what does his redemption teach us about the power of ordinary effort? In the face of divine or societal challenges, his labours, like our own, show that greatness is forged not in grand moments but in the quiet, relentless work of every day. Theseus and the Minotaur, a hero's quest in the labyrinth Theus, stand in the sunlit agora of Athens, around 1200 BCE, where the air buzzes with the scent of olive oil and the chatter of merchants. Here, Theseus, prince of Athens and son of King Aegeus, emerges as a hero in the making, as recounted in Apollodorus' Bibliotheca and Plutarch's Life of Theseus. He is a young man of courage and cunning, his life shaped by the weight of his city's burdens. Picture him striding through the marketplace, his tunic simple but his, bearing regal, his muscles honed from years of training in wrestling and spear throwing. His days are filled with the duties of a prince, inspecting city defences, offering sacrifices at Athena's temple, and listening to the grievances of citizens, their voices heavy with fear of Crete's demands. Athens is under a dark shadow. Every 9 years, King Minos of Crete exacts a tribute, 7 young men and 7 maidens sent to face the Minotaur, a monstrous creature half man, half bull confined in the labyrinth designed by Daedalus. You can imagine Theseus, his jaw set, hearing tales of the beast from trembling elders, their stories of lost youths fueling his resolve. His daily routine is rigorous, mornings spent sparring with wooden swords, afternoons practicing archery, evenings studying maps of the Aegean with Aegeus. He wrestles bandits on the road to Athens, clearing paths of threats like Siren or Procrustes, his exploits earning him fame. Yet, the Minotaur's shadow looms, a test unlike any bandit. Theseus volunteers to join the tribute, determined to slay the Minotaur and free Athens. You might picture him in the palace, polishing his bronze sword, his father Aegeus pleading with him to stay, offering a white sail as a signal of his survival. Theseus' preparation is meticulous. He sharpens daggers, tests rope for strength, and prays to Athena for wisdom. His daily grind training, governing, listening to citizens has built a hero who blends strength with strategy. The Athenian youths chosen for the tribute gather, their faces pale, as Theseus rallies them with promises of return. The ship, its black sails stark against the horizon, sets out for Crete, carrying their hopes. You can see Theseus on deck, his eyes fixed on the sea, his mind tracing plans to navigate the labyrinth's twists. Crete looms, its palace at Knossos a marvel of painted frescoes and towering columns. Minos, proud and unyielding, greets the Athenians with cold courtesy, his daughter Ariadne watching from the sidelines, her gaze lingering on Theseus. The labyrinth awaits, its stone corridors a puzzle no one has survived. Theseus, shaped by years of disciplined wrestling, planning, sacrificing, stands ready, his courage rooted in the ordinary tasks of a prince's life. As he prepares to enter the maze, the question lingers, can Theseus' strength and cunning, honed through daily effort, outwit the Minotaur and Daedalus' deadly design? Or will Crete's monster claim another victim in a cycle of sacrifice? That binds Athens to its rival. You are now in the grand palace of Knossos on Crete, where the air is heavy with the scent of myrrh and the distant bellows of the Minotaur echo. From the labyrinth below, Theseus, Prince of Athens, stands among the 14 Athenian youths chosen as tribute, his resolve unshaken despite the looming trial. Apollodorus' Bibliotheca and Plutarch's Life of Theseus depict him as a hero blending strength with cunning. His years of training wrestling bandits, forging weapons preparing him for this moment. Picture him, his bronze sword strapped to his side, his eyes scanning the opulent halls painted with frescoes of bulls and waves, as he awaits his entry into Daedalus' maze. His daily routine of sparring and planning in Athens is now a distant memory. Replaced by the urgent need to survive and save his city, Theseus' preparation is meticulous. Even in Crete's shadow, you can imagine him in the quarters assigned to the tributes, sharpening his dagger on a whetstone, testing its edge with his thumb, or knotting a rope to mark his path. His fellow Athenians, pale with fear, look to him for courage, their whispers recounting his past feats slaying the bandit Siren, outwitting Procrustes. King Minos, towering and imperious, mocks the youths, but his daughter Ariadne, struck by Theseus' resolve, approaches him in secret. You might see her, her robes flowing, slipping him a ball of thread and a dagger. Her voice low as she reveals the labyrinth's secret. The thread will guide him back. Her love, sparked by divine nudge or mortal charm, becomes his lifeline. A tool as vital as his sword, the labyrinth's entrance looms, its stone arch cold and unyielding. Theseus ties Ariadne's thread to a pillar, his fingers steady from years of handling ropes and reins. His daily discipline training with spears, studying maps. Praying to Athena grounds him as he steps into the maze, the thread unspooling. Behind him, the corridors twist, their walls damp and shadowed, the Minotaur's roars growing louder. You can picture Theseus moving silently, his muscles tensed, his senses sharpened from hunting in Athenian hills. The other youths remain behind, their fate tied to his success, their prayers mingling with the distant chants of Cretan priests. Ariadne watches from the palace, her heart torn between loyalty to her father and her bond with Theseus. The maze tests more than strength, it demands cunning. Theseus navigates its turns, his thread a thin lifeline in the dark, his mind mapping each dead end. His years of clearing paths and outsmarting foes guide his steps. But the Minotaur, a beast born of divine curse, awaits, its horns glinting in torchlight. Hera, ever watchful, may yet influence Minos or the maze itself. Her enmity for heroes a constant threat. As Theseus nears the beast, his hand gripping the dagger, the question looms, can his disciplined skill, honed through Athens' daily grind, defeat the Minotaur and Daedalus' inescapable design? Or will the labyrinth's twists and Hera's wrath trap him in Crete's deadly heart? You stand at the heart of the labyrinth in Crete's palace of Knossos, where the air is dank and the Minotaur's roars shake the stone walls. Theseus, Prince of Athens, grips his dagger and Ariadne's thread, his lifeline through Daedalus' maze. Apollodorus' Bibliotheca and Plutarch's Life of Theseus depict this moment as the climax of his quest to slay the Minotaur and free Athens from Crete's tribute. Picture him, his lion-skin cloak stained with sweat, his steps silent as he tracks the beast, its hoofprints deep in the dust, his daily routine wrestling bandits, sharpening blades. Praying to Athena has forged a hero whose strength and cunning now face their ultimate test. In the labyrinth's twisting depths, the confrontation is brutal and swift. You can imagine Theseus rounding a corner, the Minotaur looming, its bull head lowered, horns gleaming, human body rippling with muscle, his arrows useless against its hide. Theseus relies on his wrestler's skill, honed in Athenian fields. He dodges a charge, grappling the beast, his arms locking around its neck. Using Ariadne's dagger, he drives the blade into its throat, the Minotaur collapsing in a bellowing heap. Blood pools as Theseus catches his breath, rewinding the thread to retrace his path. You might see him emerging from the labyrinth weary, but triumphant, greeted by the Athenian youths, their faces alight with hope. Ariadne, waiting anxiously, embraces him, her thread the key to his survival. Theseus' escape is daring. He leads the youths to the ship, Ariadne at his side. Fleeing Minos' wrath under cover of night, you can picture them sailing from Crete, the black sail billowing, Theseus promising Aegeus a white sail for victory. But tragedy strikes, he abandons Ariadne on Naxos, perhaps swayed by divine will or his own ambition, and forgets to raise the white sail. Aegeus, seeing the black sail from Athens' cliffs, leaps to his death, believing Theseus lost. You might imagine Theseus landing in Athens, his triumph overshadowed by grief. Now king, but haunted by his father's loss, the Minotaur's defeat frees Athens, ending Crete's tribute. But the cost personal and political lingers. Theseus' victory reshapes Greek myth, cementing his legend as a hero who blends brawn with brains. His daily discipline training, planning, sacrificing enabled him to navigate the labyrinth and slay the beast, proving mortal cunning could conquer divine designs. The story, sung in Athenian halls, inspired leaders to value strategy alongside strength. Reflecting on Theseus, you might consider modern heroes those who face complex challenges. From crises to systems with disciplined effort, his quest, rooted in the ordinary tasks of a prince's life, asks, how do we navigate our own labyrinths, using daily skills to overcome daunting odds? And what does Theseus' triumph and his failures teach us about the cost of heroism in a world where victory often comes with unintended consequences? Odysseus' voyage, the odyssey of a cunning hero. You find yourself on the rocky shores of Ithaca, around 1200 BCE, where the sea crashes against cliffs and the air smells of salt and olive groves. Here, Odysseus, king of Ithaca and hero of Homer's Odyssey, prepares for his journey home after the Trojan War. Known for his cunning devising the Trojan Horse, he is a man of wit as much as strength. Picture him in his palace, his tunic worn from battle, inspecting ships with his calloused hands. His days are filled with royal duties, settling disputes among farmers, offering sacrifices to Poseidon, and training his son Telemachus in archery. Yet, his heart is set on returning to his wife Penelope and their island kingdom, a goal delayed by divine whims and mortal trials. Odysseus' routine in Ithaca before the war was one of leadership and preparation. You can imagine him rising at dawn, checking the palace store's armoury of wine, barrels of grain, or sparring with his men, his bronze sword flashing. He oversees shipbuilding, his keen eye ensuring sturdy oak planks and tight caulking, skills that will serve him in the trials ahead. His cunning, honed through years of negotiating with traders and outwitting rivals, defines him more than brute force. The Trojan War, a decade-long ordeal, has kept him from Ithaca, and now, as he departs Troy, the gods, particularly Poseidon, angered by Odysseus' blinding of the Cyclopes, Polyphemus, conspire to thwart his journey. His ship, laden with war, spoils, set sail, its crew loyal but weary. The voyage begins with promise but soon turns perilous. You might picture Odysseus at the helm, his eyes scanning the horizon, navigating by stars as his men row through calm seas. Their first stop, the land of the Cicons, ends in a raid gone wrong, costing lives. Then, the Lotus Eaters tempt his crew with forgetful bliss, but Odysseus, ever vigilant, drags them back to the ship, his daily tasks rationing food, mending sails, offering prayers to Athena reflect his disciplined mind. But the god's wrath tests his resolve. The Cyclops cave looms next, a trial where strength alone won't suffice. You can see him sharpening a stake, his mind racing to outwit the giant, his leadership keeping his men focused despite fear. Odysseus' journey is a testament to his cunning, forged in the ordinary grind of kingship planning, persuading, enduring. Ithaca's people, awaiting their king, whisper of his exploits, their offerings to Poseidon seeking his safe return. Penelope weaves and unweaves her loom, staving off suitors, while Telemachus trains, hoping to emulate his father. As Odysseus sails into the unknown, his ship battered by storms, the question looms, can his sharp mind and relentless discipline honed through years of ruling Ithaca, overcome the divine obstacles and mortal dangers that bar his path home? Or will the god's wrath and the sea's perils prove too great for even the williest hero? You are aboard Odysseus' storm-battered ship, adrift on the vast Aegean, where the air is sharp with salt and the creak of oaken planks. The king of Ithaca, famed for his cunning in Homer's Odyssey, navigates perils that test his wit and endurance. Having survived the Chacone's counterattack and the Lotus Eater's trance, Odysseus now faces trials orchestrated by vengeful gods, particularly Poseidon. Angered by the blinding of his son, the Cyclopes Polyphemus, picture him at the helm, his tunic frayed, his eyes scanning the horizon for land, his hands steady despite the crew's growing despair. His daily routine once ruling Ithaca, settling disputes, and training Telemachus now a relentless cycle of navigation, rationing dwindling supplies, and praying to Athena for guidance. The Cyclops encounter defines Odysseus' guile. You can imagine him in Polyphemus' cave, his men trembling as the giant devours to companions. Odysseus, ever resourceful, crafts a plan. He sharpens a stake, its tip hardened in fire, and offers the Cyclops wine from their stores. You might see him, his voice calm, calling himself nobody to trick the giant. When Polyphemus sleeps, Odysseus drives the stake into his eye, blinding him. The Cyclops cries summon neighbors, but nobody deceives them, allowing escape. Yet Odysseus' hubris daunting Polyphemus with his true name invokes Poseidon's wrath, dooming his voyage to storms. His daily tasks mending ropes, checking sails, rationing bread are now survival tactics. Each act a battle against the sea's fury. Subsequent trials test his cunning further. On Aeolus Island, he secures a bag of winds to speed their journey, only for his crew's greed to unleash a storm when they open it, mistaking it for treasure. You can picture Odysseus, his face lined with frustration, retying the bag's knots, his leadership strained as he rallies his men. Circe's island brings new dangers. The enchantress turns his crew into pigs, but Odysseus, aided by Hermes' herb, resists her magic. His diplomacy honed in Ithaca's courts wins Circe's aid, and she transforms his men back, offering a year of rest. His routine adapts, he learns from Circe's wisdom, maps routes to avoid Charybdis' whirlpool, and sharpens spears for Scylla's threat. Blending his warrior's discipline with strategic foresight, Odysseus' journey, rooted in the daily grind of leadership planning, persuading, enduring, reveals his strength as a survivor. Ithaca fades in memory, but Penelope's loyalty and Telemachus' growth drive him forward. His crew, though loyal, falter under divine pressures, their mistakes costing lives. As he sails toward new perils, Sirens, Scylla, the cattle of Helios, the sea grows darker, Poseidon's storms unrelenting. The question looms, can Odysseus' cunning, forged through years of outwitting rivals and ruling Ithaca, navigate the divine wrath and mortal weaknesses that threaten to strand him forever? Or will the god's vengeance and his own hubris keep him from his longed-for home? You stand on the wave-tossed deck of Odysseus' last ship, the Aegean sea churning under Poseidon's wrath. The king of Ithaca, hero of Homer's Odyssey, nears the end of his decade-long journey home from Troy, his cunning tested by gods and monsters. Having outwitted the Cyclopes, Circe, and the Sirens, Odysseus now faces final trials. His crew dwindled by losses. Picture him, his beard streaked with salt, gripping the helm, his eyes weary but sharp. His daily routine once ruling Ithaca, mending sails. Praying to Athena is now a desperate cycle of survival, rationing barley and water, navigating by stars, and dodging divine vengeance for his hubris against Poseidon's son, Polyphemus. The final trials push Odysseus' wit to its limits. You can imagine him lashing himself to the mast to resist the siren's song, his ears plugged with wax to protect his crew, his foresight saving them from enchantment. Scylla and Charybdis follow. He steers close to Scylla's cliff, sacrificing 6 men to her jaws to avoid Charybdis' whirlpool. His leadership, honed in Ithaca's courts, holds the crew together though their morale frays. Disaster strikes on Thrinacia, where his men, starving, slaughter Helios' sacred cattle despite Odysseus' warnings. You might see him, his voice hoarse, pleading as they roast the forbidden meat. Knowing Zeus' punishment looms, a storm destroys the ship, leaving Odysseus alone, clinging to wreckage, drifting to Calypso's island. Calypso, a nymph, holds him for 7 years, offering immortality for his love. Odysseus, longing for Penelope, refuses, his days spent gazing at the sea. Crafting rafts from driftwood, his hands calloused from work, Athena, his divine ally, persuades Zeus to free him. Hermes orders Calypso to release him. You can picture Odysseus sailing alone, his raft battered by Poseidon's final storm, until he washes ashore in Phaeocia. There, his storytelling honed through years of rallying men charms King Alcinous, who gifts him a ship to Ithaca. Disguised by Athena as a beggar, Odysseus returns, finding his palace overrun by suitors. With Telemachus, he plots their downfall, his cunning now paired with a warrior's resolve, sharpened by years of trials. Odysseus' homecoming, achieved through relentless cunning and discipline, cements his legend. He slays the suitors, reclaims Penelope, and restores order, his daily grind of survival planning. Enduring, deceiving, proving stronger than divine wrath, the Odyssey shaped Greek ideals of heroism, valuing wit over brawn, its tales sung. In marketplaces, reflecting on Odysseus, you might see parallels in modern struggles navigating crises, outsmarting obstacles, holding to purpose despite odds. His journey, rooted in the ordinary tasks of leadership, asks, how do we use daily discipline to overcome life's tempests? And what does Odysseus' return teach us about the power of cunning and perseverance to reclaim what we hold dear in a world ruled by unpredictable forces?